Chapter 26. At an empty seaside, Lun threw the invisible man onto the beach like a dead dog. Feeling his body being freed, the invisible man tightly covered the bloody part of his body and roared ferociously, "You damn thing, do you know who I am? I..." Bang! Before he could finish his words, he was hit on the head by a dark fist. The invisible man felt as if he was hit by a speeding truck. If it weren't for his strong physique and tough skin, this punch would have directly smashed his head. Definitely, Lun's strength is less than 30%. This guy is far inferior to Daredevil. The dizziness lasted for several dozen seconds before I came to my senses. Now the invisible man finally realized how terrifying the person in front of him was. I'm afraid even if 10 of us were to go our separate ways, we wouldn't be a match for the other side. Ignoring the pain in my crotch, I kowtowed to Lun on the beach. "Please spare me, please. I will never go to the women's restroom invisibly again. Is it just a peek?" Lun's expression became increasingly cold. The invisible man didn't want to say it at first, but when he saw Lun's devilish eyes, he knew that if he didn't confess, he would die miserably. "I am not a human being. I have RD many girls in the bathroom, the youngest of whom was only 12 years old. Afterwards, our company erased all these things. Please forgive me. I no longer have the ability to do anything. I have received your punishment, please let me go." The invisible man's face was covered in a mixture of dirt and tears, and underneath was blood and mud. "Well, sure. Since you're so honest, I'll let you go." Lun's expression gradually changed from cold to bright, just like ice in the cold winter encountering the spring breeze and slowly melting. "Ah." The invisible man was a little bit unbelieving and asked with certainty, "Brother, can I really walk?" "Definitely." Lun still had that warm smile on his face. Thank you, brother." The invisible man didn't care why Lun was behaving so abnormally and just ran away. Now he just wanted to go back quickly, maybe the second child could still be saved. However, he had not run for long when he found that his legs were becoming heavier and heavier, and finally he could not even take a step. What is going on here? He finally realized something was wrong and subconsciously looked at his legs. He finally realized that he was so eager to escape that he didn't notice that his legs were covered by a thick layer of ice. And the ice is still covering the upper part of the body. "No, don't." He turned around and saw the young man in the distance, heading towards his right hand. There was also constant bursts of cold air from above, and it was obvious that the other party had no intention of letting him go. "You." The invisible man completely turned into an ice sculpture amidst the horror and disbelief. Lun clenched his palm, and the invisible man's body exploded instantly. Inside Water Company, Uncle Fried Chicken looked at the remaining 4 giants and said with an unpleasant expression, "Where's the invisible man? Which women's restroom did he go to again? The locomotive is dead, is he dead too?" No one at the scene said anything, only Homelander retorted with a ferocious look, "You better speak properly." Now, Uncle Fried Chicken was so angry at Homelander's attitude that he slammed the table. "Speak nicely? If you hadn't acted so recklessly, how could you have let those rats hiding in the corner, the discovery of the compound, the death of the locomotive, the murderer has not been found until now, who can tell me, how to solve Walter's trouble now?" Although Homelander really wanted to give the other person a laser eye, he was secretly stopped by Queen Maeve. Looking at the other person's eyes, Homelander had to suppress his anger. He also understood what the other party meant. They do have extraordinary abilities, but they also know that they don't have the packaging and operations of the other party. They are nothing, and their past reputation will be completely reduced to ashes. And we have to rely on the other party to resolve the impact of this incident. Homelander had no choice but to lie in Queen Maeve's arms, and the other party did not become impatient because of the occasion. Instead, she stroked his head like a mother. The others didn't care, as if this kind of thing was nothing new. They also knew that Homelander lacked maternal love. In addition to his chaotic relationship with Queen Maeve, he treated the vice president like a mother. "You must also have a glass of milk every day to experience the taste of breast milk." Humph. Seeing Homelander calm down, Uncle Fried Chicken suppressed the fear of death that had just arisen in his mind. He snorted deliberately to show his authority. "I have sent the information department to find out everything about the 2 organizations yesterday. It has been roughly determined that the person who destroyed these 2 organizations is the one who killed the locomotive. I want to see who dares to kill our people from Vought Company." Upon hearing this, the expressions of those present changed. especially Homelander, who stood up from Queen Maeve's arms. Damn it, if I find this guy, I'm going to take action myself. Boss, please go outside and take a look. However, just as Homelander finished speaking, a somewhat fearful voice was heard from outside. Chapter 27. On the flat ground outside Water Company. Many people gathered here, as if something big had happened. Get out of the way. The people from Water Company left a gap for the onlookers to flow in. Uncle Fried Chicken, Homelander, and others also entered the center of the crowd. The incredible scene struck their eyes. A spliced body was lying on the ground. You can vaguely see that this is the Invisible Man. FK. Damn it. Who is it? Before Uncle Fried Chicken could say anything, Homelander instantly went rage. His eyes turned red, as if he could emit heat vision at any time. The onlookers stepped back one after another. The pressure emanating from Homelander was simply too strong. What are you yelling about? Tell someone to bring back the Invisible Man's body. Uncle Fried Chicken is no less angry than Homelander. When beating a dog, you have to look at its owner first. This man has repeatedly challenged the bottom line of their water company. There is no other way but to catch him and kill him. The crowd who saw the Invisible Man's death should have cursed the damn murderer together. But there have been too many negative news about Water Company recently. Most people have felt the hypocrisy of Water Company. Even they are extremely afraid of Homelander. Because a few days ago, a video of Homelander accidentally killing an ordinary person was also posted online. This made many people know that Homelander, the leader of the Big Seven, is extremely cruel and inhumane. Naturally, all of this was done by the group in black robes. Soon, the onlookers dispersed. What happened at Water Company has nothing to do with them. Uncle Fried Chicken and others soon discovered that the last place the Invisible Man appeared before his death was Midtown High School. But they did not dare to go and investigate. After all, it was related to the reputation of Water Company. They have now been pushed to the forefront of public opinion and must not let the outside world know that the Invisible Man was actually peeping at high school female students. Tell the information department to check it out quickly. Are they all idiots? Tell me as soon as they find out. I will tear this person into pieces. Homelander's face was distorted and shape-shifting because of anger. He has a similar idea to Uncle Fried Chicken, believing that Walt's other superheroes are his subordinates. This man has killed his own dogs many times, which has damaged his reputation. He must torture him to death to vent his hatred. The others didn't say anything, but they all felt nervous. The locomotive and the Invisible Man all died tragically. This man definitely came to take revenge on the Water Company. Will they turn their attention to them next? Such a development is really possible. Although they are all stronger than the two locomotive leaders, who knows how terrifying that person's strength is. Because of compound number 5, their skin is harder than diamond, but the Invisible Man was still broken. So they all secretly decided to go out less often to avoid being ambushed. As for Homelander, they have no business telling him what's going on, because he's just a lunatic. On the other side, Lun, who returned to school, also learned from little Spider-Man Peter what had just happened in the bathroom. The girl's name was Gwen Stacy. Isn't this the heroine in Spider-Man? I just saved her. I didn't expect that. Peter sighed as he spoke. I never thought there would be a peeping Tom in our school. Suddenly, Peter stared at Lun with sharp eyes. In a low voice, Lun, tell me the truth, were you the one who saved her just now? Lun was not surprised either, after all, she had just suddenly gone out, and then the following things happened. At this time, Sky in front also turned around. Obviously, knowing what happened to Lun, she had the same thought as Peter. Lun did not hide their thoughts, so he nodded directly. I knew that my goddess might leave me. Gwen wanted to find you in person to thank you. My love ended before it even began, but this person is still my good brother. Instead of being surprised, Peter showed a sad expression. That was just like someone stealing your wife. What a mess. You are so young and yet you want to fall in love. Haven't you always been interested in biology and genetics? Lun didn't say anything, but Sky in front of him couldn't help but complain. Peter retorted, you don't understand, science students actually need more love. Yeah, otherwise you wouldn't have dozens of photos of other people on your computer. Lun looked at Peter funny. Peter was surprised now. How did you know? But he seemed to have thought of something. I knew Sky had tampered with my computer. Peter did not hide Sky's affairs from him, and he also knew Sky's identity as a hacker. I'm not that boring. Sky denied it outright. That's my guess. Lun can't say, I've seen your movies in my previous life. Suddenly, Lun and Peter looked at each other. They all sensed something unusual. Lun uses his observation haki, and Peter naturally uses his spider sense. What's wrong? Sky was also made nervous by the sudden silence of the two people. Lun shook her head and said, It's okay, I'm just being watched. Chapter 28. Lun, what should we do? This person gives me a very special feeling. Peter spoke calmly. Lun shook his head and said, It's okay. He probably has no ill intentions, otherwise, an arrow would have been shot at him long ago. Arrow. Peter and the others naturally didn't understand what Lun meant. This is normal. After all, S.H.I.E.L.D. has not entered the public eye at all, let alone Avengers. Otherwise, how could such a dirty thing as water company appear? You will know later, just ignore it for now. Peter and Sky both trusted Lun, so they nodded and didn't think about it anymore. On the rooftop a few hundred meters away, a man with a bow and arrow on his back and a sword on his waist frowned slightly. He touched the earphone on his ear and said, Director, I feel like they have discovered my presence. It's already been confirmed that Spider-Man has the ability of sensing, but I didn't expect that the Asian boy who wiped out 2 gangs also has such an ability. This person is Hawkeye in the future Avengers. It is normal for him to be able to see things clearly at such a long distance. The voice of Nick Fury came from the headphones. Now our plan will be more effective. The Hand has already dispatched personnel. We have sent people to intercept other places, and you are also interested in Midtown High School. When school is over, I will ask Natasha Romanoff to come over and invite the boy. Try to satisfy the other party's conditions as much as possible. He will play a key role in the establishment of the Avengers. Okay, Chief. Hawkeye nodded here, and after hanging up the communication, his eyes suddenly narrowed. He immediately drew his bow and shot an arrow, accompanied by a whoosh sound. A quick-moving figure who tried to enter Midtown High School was shot dead on the spot. Soon, before passers-by noticed, men in black suits walked out of the vehicle and took the body away. These people in black suits are naturally S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and they are here to cooperate with Hawkeye's operations. Obviously, S.H.I.E.L.D. is not here to monitor Lun. This is because after they found out Lun's identity, they knew that the Hand would definitely be able to find out and would take action against Lun. So Hawkeye and a team of agents were sent to protect Lun. Definitely, doing this is also to lay a good foundation for the subsequent winning over. Their actions did impress Lun in the classroom. The corners of his mouth rose slightly. Black Braised Egg didn't come up to invite him directly. I also know to lay a solid foundation first. But it's good for them to do this, as they can still have some free time. He slowly leaned back in his chair, deliberately ignoring Hawkeye's gaze. Although the distance was far, Hawkeye's powerful eyesight allowed him to see the other person's eyes at the first moment. Is this a compliment? FK. This is not praise at all. In this case, it seems like saying, you have worked hard, thank you. It feels like being looked at like a monkey. But I can't not carry out the mission. So Hawkeye could only force himself not to look at Lun, and shot and killed several Hand ninjas. Unfortunately, these ninjas from the Hand became tools for Hawkeye to vent his anger. In this regard, Lun just felt that her mood for the day was brighter again. Lun, what's so funny? Peter asked in a low voice, somewhat curious. Lun slapped the other person's head back, listen to the class. On the other side, someone knocked on Nick Fury's office after he hung up the phone. Come in. Nick Fury casually picked up his coffee and spoke. Then, the shiny and rare Phil Coulson agent walked in. Director, we have made a major discovery. Oh? Is there a more significant discovery than Lun? Nick Fury spoke curiously while drinking coffee. Phil Coulson quickly handed over a photo and said, Yes, Director. I just received news that Howard Stark's son Tony seems to be researching something extraordinary recently. The photo shows a blurry picture with a blurry figure of a man and an unclear human-shaped object placed in front of him. At the very center of this thing is a round glowing substance. Thanks to Tony Stark's anti-detection technology, it's great that S.H.I.E.L.D. was able to take such a photo. Nick Fury immediately put down his coffee and stared at the photo. This is the arc reactor. What did Howard's son build with it? He once worked for Tony Stark's father, Howard Stark, so he naturally knew about the arc reactor. Moreover, he has been keeping an eye on Tony Stark's movements over the years. Because the other party is a genius who is as good as his father, they shield must pay great attention. Unexpectedly, the other party discovered the arc reactor so quickly, even without them providing any information about his father. In other words, Tony discovered the arc reactor on his own, which is incredible. This was earlier than his father discovered it. Already better than the master. I'm really jealous of Howard. Not only is he a genius, but his son is even more genius. After secretly complaining a few words in his heart, he ordered Phil Coulson, keep an eye on Tony Stark. I think he will create a technology that is far beyond this era. Chapter 29. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. These days, Hawkeye and S.H.I.E.L.D. agent have been quietly doing bodyguard work. Moreover, Lun also guessed that the hand had not come to his door these days. It must be that S.H.I.E.L.D. had deployed people. Make sure the hand can't find me. This made Lun feel a little embarrassed. I didn't even know Nick Fury was coming, so I had to think of some reason to reject this guy. It was noon that day. Lun, Sky and Peter were sitting together eating lunch. Although the taste is not as good as Sky's, which is cooked by the chef with extraordinary ability, it is still edible. However, Lun has been using his observation haki to perceive the surrounding environment. It has to be said that Hawkeye's strength is not as good as that of Captain America and Black Panther, who are cheating players who have surpassed their limits. But like Natasha Romanoff, it has been developed to the limits of the human body. Over the course of several days, he shot and killed nearly 100 elite ninjas from the Shura Society. Definitely, many ninjas found his hiding place, but they were all killed by him with his sword. You have to know that these ninjas were specially trained by the hand. Apart from being fearless and brave, one of them is at least as good as 5 or 6 special forces soldiers. This shows that Hawkeye is more than just an archer. Hello, can I sit here? Just then, a pleasant voice was heard. When I looked up, I saw a beautiful face. Gwen Stacy. That's the blonde girl that Lun helped this morning. Seeing the way the girl was staring at Lun, Sky's heart suddenly went on alert. He immediately shook his head and said, I'm sorry, we were talking about. Sky was about to say that we were discussing some important topics when she was interrupted by the enthusiastic Peter. Okay, sit anywhere. When Peter saw the girl, his face turned red unconsciously. As if she didn't notice at all, Gwen's eyes were always on Lun. As for the other students in the cafeteria, they all held back their wails when they saw this scene. I didn't expect that as the president of the student union, the school belle actually likes this type. In this open country, students of this age have matured. Some boys couldn't help but cast murderous glances at Lun. Gwen Stacy didn't care about that and said in surprise, thank you. Peter, can we change seats? Is that so? All right then. Peter was about to stand up when Sky glared back at him with a look that looked like he was going to kill him. I had no choice but to sit down again and said in an exaggerated manner, I'm really sorry, Gwen, I've been eating too much spicy food recently, so I feel uncomfortable somewhere. Puff. As soon as he said this, Lun, who was eating, almost spit out the words. Are all of this kid's excuses so weird? Okay, then I won't use it. So Gwen did this and stood opposite Peter, diagonally opposite Lun, and opposite Lun was Sky. Seeing that Gwen was not sitting next to Lun, Sky took a big bite of the burger as if he had won. Thank you for saving me that morning, Lun. Gwen put down the plate and spoke directly. Lun was a little surprised. She didn't expect the other party to know it so quickly. All I can say is that this girl is also very meticulous, a quality she inherited from her sheriff father. It's okay, Lun. Before Lun could answer, Peter wanted to speak first, but was choked back by Lun's eyes. Then he shook his head and said, nothing, I just don't like people from Vought Company. Yes, he is very kind, he saved me. Sky added deliberately, as if swearing that he was the first to come. How could the smart Gwen not understand Sky's meaning, and the girl's competitive spirit suddenly surged in her heart. His smile became brighter, and he said, you saved me anyway. I don't know if you have time, let's go out for dinner, I know a good barbecue restaurant. Just as Lun was about to speak, Sky spoke again, forget about the barbecue, he likes the oriental dishes I make for him the most. Is that so? Do you live together? Sky's simple words made Gwen notice the key point. Yeah, Sky was being hunted before, so Lun took him in. Peter stupidly didn't see the situation clearly and added directly. You. Sky was furious. All the efforts he had just made were in vain. But he still didn't give in, and forced out a nice smile again. Yeah, if he hadn't saved me, I might not have survived, so I plan to repay him with my whole life. Oh? Sky-san is so grateful. Before coming, she had asked her classmates about Lun and the others, and knew that the girl next to her was called Sky. Ahem. Seeing that the atmosphere was becoming increasingly weird, Lun couldn't help but interrupt by coughing twice. Let's talk about dinner another day. If Gwen wants to thank me, just don't mention my affairs easily. Gwen nodded hurriedly. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. I just told my classmates that I wanted to get to know you, and I didn't mention what happened this morning. When Gwen said this, a blush appeared on her fair face, and Peter was drooling at the sight. That's good. Lun, the hand, or water company don't want to involve outsiders. Even if Sky was the trigger, Lun would not let him be implicated again. Including Peter offering to help him fight the hand several times, he refused every time. He had probably been able to solve it. Ding! Tony Stark developed the Mark III mecha ahead of schedule. While discussing cooperation in the Middle East, he destroyed the 10 rings who were supposed to have held him for 3 months. They found Obadiah, the real murderer, and put him in jail. Combined with the accumulation from the previous 2 times, the host can select one of the following worlds to simulate. Chapter 30. As soon as the prompt sounded, Lun couldn't help but pause. I didn't expect Tony to solve all the problems so quickly. In addition to the previous 2 destructions of the Tomahawk Gang, the Rising Tide organization, and the killing of the Invisible Man, the accumulation of several changes in the plot development, finally got the chance to choose a specific world simulation. Lun, what's wrong with you? Seeing Lun suddenly stunned, Peter and the 2 girls were a little confused. Lun also came back to her senses and said, It's okay, I'm done eating, I'm going to the library first. After saying that, Lun ignored the increasingly surprised looks of several people and left the cafeteria. Stark Group. Facing the reporters below, Tony slowly walked onto the stage and raised 2 fingers in a calm tone. I will only announce 2 things. Before I finish talking about these 2 things, media friends are advised not to speak. Otherwise I will make it impossible for you to find a job in your life, including picking up trash. As soon as these words were spoken, the reporters who were originally trying to fish suddenly became silent. In the huge press conference hall, you could hear a pin drop. I glanced at the little pepper next to me and the driver Happy, seeing both of them give him an encouraging look. Tony nodded and continued, First, I believe everyone already knows that our Stark Group has a traitor called Obadiah. When I was discussing cooperation in the Middle East, I experienced a life-threatening situation. This incident made me reflect deeply. The reason why this happened is because of the weapons we developed. If the Stark Group hadn't developed these things, we will not allow those who endanger peace to take advantage of us, so I declare that the Stark Group will permanently shut down its weapons manufacturing industry. Boom. As soon as these words were spoken, there was an uproar. Many reporters went crazy and came with cameras to ask questions. However, Tony just looked stern, stretched out his palm and pressed down. Many reporters had to suppress their excitement of obtaining first-hand information and remained quiet. They are really afraid that they will be homeless for the rest of their lives. They didn't dare to doubt the authenticity of Tony's words. Unless you really don't want to live a good life. Very good. Tony calmed down and continued, Secondly, I have already bought all the shares of the traitor Obadiah. I decided to transfer these shares to a young man. As for the identity of this person and whether he is willing to disclose himself, what I say doesn't count. It depends on his will. Okay, you can ask questions freely now. But if you want to raise your hands to speak, I will only give you 3 minutes because I have something important to do. Only then did many media reporters start to speak up. Mr. Stark, did the board of directors agree to your request to close the weapons department? Or did you do it on your own? Yes, Mr. Stark, the main industry of the Stark Group is weapons manufacturing. Are you sure you want to give it up? Mr. Stark, what's so great about the young shareholder who is about to become the Stark Group? Why would you do such a crazy thing? That's a share worth hundreds of billions. You experienced the KB attack in the Middle East. What happened? How were you rescued? It is said that dozens of Special Forces soldiers following you were killed in the explosion, and the missiles used were from your Stark group. Tony wanted to slap these flies to death, but he still chose to answer a few key questions. I am now the largest shareholder of Stark, so I have to decide, and that is the decision of the board of directors. In addition, Stark Group does not have a weapons industry, but it is still the world's top industry. As for how I survived, it was because the new shareholder I mentioned did not have his genius ideas. There is a high possibility that I will be locked up in a dark cave and even suffer unimaginable serious injuries. So, I have made it clear why this young man can become a new shareholder. His value far exceeds hundreds of billions of shares. Okay, 3 minutes are up. My secretary and other people in the company will answer your questions next. So, excuse me. After saying that, he nodded to the little hot pepper beside him and left to record the press conference. Many media reporters, like hungry wolves who have lost their fresh meat, wanted to catch up with Tony. However, they were all intercepted by well-trained bodyguards. Pepper shook her head helplessly and stood on the stage and said, "Well, Mr. Stark has important matters to attend to, so feel free to ask me any questions." Tony returned to his basement, which has now become his laboratory for researching mechas. "Ethan, how about it, have you figured out the color scheme?" As soon as he came down, Tony couldn't help but speak. Ethan was the scientist who was supposed to die saving Tony. However, due to LUN, Mark III was released ahead of schedule. Not only did Tony avoid a giant hole in his chest, he also avoided the tragedy and saved Ethan. Seeing that no one answered him, Tony immediately felt something was wrong. Only after I completely entered the basement did I see the condition inside. At the moment Ethan seemed to be asleep, lying on the table. Next to him sat a one-eyed black braised egg. At the moment, looking at the drawings on the table. Chapter 31. I admit that my defense system needs to be upgraded, but don't think I don't dare to attack you. Also, if anything happens to my friend, I will do everything I can to put you in jail for life. Tony, who has a smart brain, couldn't understand what was going on. Tony suppressed his anger and spoke gloomily. Don't be nervous. If I wanted to do something bad, I wouldn't be waiting for you here. I'm just here to discuss cooperation. Besides, although we can break your external defense system, we have to admit that we have no way to break your core defense system. You don't have to worry about your core secrets and those of the Stark Group being leaked. As for your friend, he was just injected with a serum that can eliminate the hidden diseases in his body. He will just sleep for a short while. After waking up, you will be healthier and more energetic than before. There was no trace of panic on Nick Fury's dark face with a mask, as if he was in control of everything. This made Tony even more anxious, as if his limelight had been stolen. He said unhappily, "Who are you and what is your purpose?" "Relax," I said, "I'm just here to discuss cooperation. As for your technology, it is your patent, and I am not qualified to review it." Nick Fury put down the drawings, slowly stood up and walked towards Tony. Tony's face turned even darker, and he resisted the urge to put on the mech right now. "Take this guy to a height of several thousand meters and drop him down. Keep your eyes fixed on him to see what he will say next. My department is called the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency. If you're worried about the hassle, you can call it SHIELD. So you came here just to introduce me to your long and difficult department? Definitely not, it's because your mecha technology has far surpassed the level of the current world. I just hope you can use it in the right place. You have to know that you are not the only one who is extraordinary in this world. Compared to this, your father, that is, the founder of our department, whom you dislike, knows much more than you do. Definitely, if you have any doubts now, I can answer them for you. And the reason I picked you up was for this Avengers project. Nick Fury made it very clear that your father was the founder of our department. The unimaginable degree of this world is far beyond the imagination of a genius like you. Then, he brought out the real purpose of coming here today. Tony was only slightly surprised by this, and then he slowly said, "Although I didn't expect my father to be the founder of this department, but I want to make it clear that this technology was not created by me, or I am just a practitioner. As for where it will be used, you don't need to worry about it. I will ask the owner who actually created this technology when the time comes." This time, it was Nick Fury who was stunned. He never thought that the Mark Mecha was not invented by Tony. He said he was just a practitioner, which means that he got this technology or inspiration from somewhere else and created the Mark Mecha. If that's the case, who on earth came up with such a brilliant idea? Are you serious? The idea for this technology wasn't yours? Nick Fury asked, still a little bit incredulous. Tony nodded nonchalantly, maybe such technology will also appear in my mind, but I was indeed guided by a young man. Just now, I have announced that I will give all the shares of Obadiah to that young man. I hope he will develop this technology with me. Now, Nick Fury was completely silent, with shock in his remaining eyes. I didn't expect that there is a genius in the world who is not inferior to Tony. This is another important information, he must find this person no matter what. This will be of greater help to the Avengers' plan. Finally, Nick Fury had to speak. Well, I don't think it's appropriate to talk about this today. Thank you for your frankness. You are looking for that young man, right? We at S.H.I.E.L.D. will help him. If he agrees to join S.H.I.E.L.D., will you consider cooperating? Definitely, he is my benefactor. If he agrees to join your Good Boy program, I will definitely join. Tony no longer paid attention to the other party, and started fiddling with his tools, turning into a blacksmith. It's the Avengers project. Nick Fury suddenly felt that Howard's son was really different from him. After the other person left, Tony asked tentatively, Jarvis, are you there? Yes, boss. The invasion has been resolved. Do you want to test it again? Tony finally breathed a sigh of relief after the artificial intelligence mechanical voice sounded. Check again to eliminate any possible Trojan programs. After saying that, he checked it several times himself, and only then did he feel relieved. Then he ordered again, eliminate all the information about my contact with that young man that day. Chapter 32. Elimination completed. All possible surveillance in New York on the day when the boss and the other party met has been eliminated. Nick Fury could never have imagined that as soon as he left, Tony eliminated all traces of contact with LUN. He did this not because he was afraid of anything, but because he was afraid that the one-eyed man who came from nowhere would murder his benefactor. Although, he still had no trace of that young man, it was as if the other party appeared out of thin air. But I still don't want my benefactor to get hurt. However, he didn't know whether his methods could have any effect. After thinking about it, I felt that there was nothing I could do, so I started to upgrade the defense system. It would be better if Jarvis could be upgraded as well. Tony, why did I fall asleep? At this time, Ethan also woke up, his eyes a little confused. Tony glanced at the other person and said, you must be too tired from work. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? He knew that the other party had injected the serum into Ethan without anyone noticing. For example, use the launcher and hit Ethan's body from a distance. So, Ethan didn't know what was going on. Hearing Tony's question, Ethan felt his body. At this moment, an incredible look immediately appeared. After taking 2 steps subconsciously, he said in surprise, I feel better than ever before, my old cold legs are healed, and my heart rate is almost the same as when I was young. Some of the hidden diseases in my body seem to have been cured. What is going on? Could it be that you helped me? Tony secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the black salted egg did not deceive him. Seeing that Ethan was fine, he breathed a sigh of relief, it's good that you're okay. As for the reason, you will know it later. Not long after, Tony Stark, the head of Stark Group, announced the permanent closure of the weapons department. And Tony Stark wants to transfer all the shares of Obadiah that originally belonged to the second largest shareholder. The message sent to an unknown stranger spread quickly. It even alarmed the military. After all, many of the military's weapons were supplied by the Stark Group. Of course it's because the weapons produced by the Stark Group are more advanced. Colonel Rhodes, you and Stark are friends, I think this matter should be left to you to handle. In the military department, an older military leader gave orders to Rhodes. Yes. Colonel Rhodes, a dark-skinned and muscular man, saluted and nodded to accept the task. He was also somewhat curious about how Tony escaped from those KB elements. And after returning to New York, he did something that shocked the whole world. So, he drove a fighter jet directly towards Tony Stark's Sea View villa. After entering the school library, Lun chose a single study room. After making sure no one was paying attention, he said to himself, I want to simulate this system. Ding, the host can simulate a specified world. You can choose the world. Next, many options emerged in Lun's mind. Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball, Shokyuji no Soma, Gourmet Hunter, One Punch Man, DC Universe, Masked, and Martial Arts. Lun was quite surprised that there were so many choices. This made him a little confused about which one to choose. Forget about Food Wars World, I don't want to learn how to cook. Besides, for now, we have Sky, a free cook who does a pretty good job, so there's no need to learn cooking. As for martial arts, although he likes swordplay and martial arts secrets, most of them are internal skills. Now he should strengthen his body. Although wood release can improve the body, it is nothing compared to Homelander's abnormal physique. There is no need to even think about the Kamen Rider world. Although he will get the knight armor, what if it is a weak transformation device? He can't take the risk. The various superpowers in the One Punch Man world are also very good, and definitely the most important thing is that there is the bald devil teacher Saitama. This guy is the one who broke the limiter. If you get his physique, you won't have to continue simulation for a long time in the future. He doesn't know if there is an upper limit. In the future, it would be a piece of cake for him to destroy a planet with just his physical body. But the problem is, how to copy that guy's physique. Unless you are reborn as the other person's son, you may have a chance to inherit. Can the bald devil get married? Haha, I'm really tied up. As for Naruto, although One Piece has been simulated, it can be simulated a few more times, after all, there are so many good things. But he doesn't want to repeat the simulation now. Dragon Ball, Gourmet Hunter is also okay. The unique fighting style inside is also very exciting. But the problem is, if I get Scion blood, it means I might turn into a mindless gorilla, which is absolutely not possible. Also, he didn't want to have a demon in his body that could eat his cells and kill him at any time. In this case, there is only one choice left. DC World. The Silver Super Template is very interesting. Chapter 33. At worst, getting Batman's equipment would make a qualitative leap in strength. Then let's challenge the DC Universe, which is named after the Marvel world. System, I want to choose to simulate the DC world. Ding, the designated simulation world has been selected successfully, and the simulation begins. Immediately, a familiar simulation panel appeared in my mind. In the first year, after you entered the DC Universe, you entered Krypton with the help of the system and became a baby on Krypton. Because the fate of babies on Krypton has been arranged before they are born. One type will be trained to be a warrior and become the defender of the planet. The warriors who conquer the universe will enter scientific research institutions and become outstanding researchers, and you are assigned to the warrior category. Oh shit! It actually became a baby. This is a new way of simulation. The simulation is also performed on a yearly basis. But it's better this way, there's no need to find a way to deduct Superman's blood to obtain Kryptonian physique. Kryptonian warriors are subjected to the most brutal training from a young age, which is much harder than scientific research that only uses brain power. Definitely, the advantage of this is that it can better develop the Kryptonian body. Superman fights against General Zod. Although General Zod loses, that's because Superman not only has the aura of the protagonist. It was also because his father absorbed the central treasure book for him. It is equivalent to gaining pure power. Therefore, Lun doesn't think Superman is stronger than General Zod. In the second year, when you were only 2 years old, you had already started to learn simple combat knowledge with the special potion made on Krypton. Because you have memories of your past lives, you learn knowledge very quickly and you also train more secretly than others. Soon you became the strongest one, and you were also the first kid to see the heat vision. In the 5th year, you have become the captain of the team. You are proficient in using various Kryptonian weapons, comparable to those adult warriors. During the training, the coach took out the kryptonite, and you finally felt the restraint of the kryptonite on the Kryptonian physique. So, you decide to do everything you can to improve yourself, because you know that when Superman finally becomes powerful, he is immune to kryptonite. Therefore, if you want to avoid such a congenital defect, the simplest and most brutal way is to become stronger. He is only 5 years old, but he is so outstanding. This is naturally due to the warrior DNA in the body. Superman's father, Jor-El, was originally a legendary scientist. Before he was born, Lun didn't believe that he didn't do private work for his son. The private work here refers to the special medicine, or serum, injected into his wife's body, to better develop the powers of his unborn son. Now it seems very likely. Also, the restraining effect of kryptonite on Kryptonians does disappear once their strength reaches a certain level. This point is explained in the comics. So, it depends on how you improve your strength. In the 10th year, you have participated in many interstellar wars and led your team to achieve great success. General Zed, the leader of the warrior lineage, admires you very much and even wants to promote you to be the next warrior leader. Your strength has been greatly developed, but you still feel that it is not enough because you are not immune to kryptonite at all. Until one day you heard that the energy in the Kryptonian core could speed up development. The radiation energy contained there is many times more concentrated than that of the Kryptonian sun. As long as you absorb a little bit, your strength will reach an unimaginable level. At this moment, your heart is finally moved. In the 12th year, you finally found an opportunity to contact the core of the planet. Without any hesitation, you defeated the adult guardian. After sneaking into the core of the planet, you can truly feel the terrifying energy of the core of the planet. You can clearly feel that the hidden power in your body is being developed little by little. It was as if some ability hidden deep in the blood had been awakened. Just when you were thinking about taking energy absorbing a step further, General Zed and his men arrived, and your plan was completely exposed. He was a little surprised. He didn't expect you to be so crazy, so under the overwhelming force, you killed General Zed. At the end of this simulation, the host can obtain the rewards in the simulator. Until the prompt sounded, Lun was a little bit unbelievable. This is really crazy. He actually absorbed the energy core of Krypton. According to his memory, the Krypton core in the movie was about to be destroyed. Krypton's technology is highly advanced, and it can even use the Krypton core to operate the planet. However, this also accelerated the depletion of Krypton's core. No wonder General Zed was so angry. It seems that he has known about this for a long time, but it doesn't matter. Because he had guessed that he had awakened the blood power in his body, perhaps, he didn't need to reach the level of silver and gold Dacheo, you can completely obtain the ability to be immune to kryptonite. However, if I have the chance to simulate it again, I will definitely find a way to avenge myself this time. At the very least, Zed must be beaten so that he cannot take care of himself. It's your fault that I gave up halfway. So, Lun said to his mind, system, calculate the harvest this time. Chapter 34. Ding, harvesting and settlement in progress. Because this time, while absorbing Kryptonian energy, the host awakened the ancient Kryptonian bloodline in his body. Therefore, after all the original powers are offset, the host gains a pure Kryptonian body. Note, a pure Kryptonian body has no upper limit to development and is not afraid of kryptonite. Originally, Lun felt like cursing when he saw that he couldn't obtain all the power in this simulation. But when he saw the introduction later, he was instantly surprised. Is this a return to ancestral bloodline? The atavism here refers to obtaining pure Kryptonian blood. In this case, Superman was able to defeat General Zed, who had dominated the universe for countless years, at such a young age. It was also because of absorbing the Central Codex that he accidentally awakened the original Kryptonian bloodline. If that's the case, then Zed's defeat wasn't unfair. To give a simple example, Superman is like a reversion to his ancestor, becoming a dragon, while Zed is just a more powerful snake. Although they are descendants, it is easy to tell that a strong snake cannot possibly defeat a young dragon. And now, Lun has also become the dragon. Although his power has not yet been developed, his potential is endless. Sooner or later, you will be able to soar into the sky. Another important point is that you don't have to worry about kryptonite. The early Superman was afraid of kryptonite, probably because his atavism was not complete. And he himself directly obtained the complete original Kryptonian body. Even though he has no power now, he is not afraid of kryptonite at all. After the system's prompt sounded, a burst of fiery energy instantly surged in Lun's body. At the same time, his body began to shine as if it had turned into a little sun. Lun could feel that she had some kind of connection with the sunlight, as if it was naturally absorbed by her body. Then it becomes part of the powerful force in the body. At this moment, Lun felt as if his body was reborn. The feeling of comfort made him almost hum softly. Is this the purest Kryptonian body? So excellent. I have also thought about how to easily increase the strength in my body. Now it's completely solved. Just get more sun and you will constantly become stronger. But originally he already possessed flight and all the abilities of Kryptonians such as heat vision. Now we have to start development again. However, for him with the original Kryptonian body, it is only a matter of time before he becomes powerful. The figure disappeared in the library in an instant, and after Thor flashed a few times, Lun had already arrived at the rooftop. According to the memory in his mind, he gathered the energy in his body into his eyes. Then, his entire eyes turned red, as if some power was about to be released. Then, a thick red light flew out. Boom! The elevator room on the rooftop in the distance was directly blown up by the scattered thermal rays. It's amazing that thermal vision can be released in such a short time. You know, in the simulation, Lun was only able to release heat vision when he was 5 years old. In the early stage, the soldiers underwent a long period of special training. The original Kryptonian body is just different. However, I didn't quite control the thermal vision the first time. Mainly because he didn't expect the heat vision released by the original Kryptonian body to be so difficult to master. The harder it is to master, the more powerful it is. After trying a few more times, I was finally able to control the changes in thermal vision. He can adjust the thickness of the thermal vision, as well as its temperature. It can shoot out disconnected heat rays, or it can be released continuously. As for the farthest distance, it is about 50 meters. Compared with the first time he released thermal vision during the simulation, which was less than 5 meters away, this was 10 times farther. At this moment, a red and gold mecha flew rapidly across the sky. Because he has become a Kryptonian body, his dynamic vision can easily see the mecha at a speed of about Mach 2. Hey, Tony Stark, have you finished choosing the color scheme? Lun saw in the news that Tony had developed a mecha, and the Mark III was released ahead of schedule. However, the mecha on the satellite screen still seems to be silver. Now looking at the shape of this mecha, it can be said to be truly complete. The drawings Peter drew at that time were just drawn with sketch pencils and there were no colors. Although the plot has changed, the necessary things have not changed too much. Seeing Iron Man soaring in the sky, Lun couldn't help but feel envious. I can do it too, and I don't need any external help. I have the original Kryptonian body. Give me some strength and let me fly. As he spoke, Lun exerted force with his legs, and the energy in his body surged wildly. Then it actually flew up. No, to be precise, he jumped very high, several hundred meters. When it reached the highest point, Lun's body began to fall. Grass. Lun knew that she seemed to be too confident because the thermal vision appeared so quickly. Flight ability still needs to be developed step by step. The feeling of falling when jumping out of a plane during the time travel came to my mind again. Although he now had several ways to avoid getting hurt, he was extremely unwilling to do so. Why can't I fly? This is the original Kryptonian body. Finally, when it was about to hit the ground, its body seemed to have mastered some kind of trick and stopped at a height of 1 meter above the ground. Then, it took off instantly. Chapter 35. Feel the wind passing by your ears. Lun couldn't help but shout out, "It's FG awesome! This feeling of freedom can cleanse your body and mind." Lun increased his flying speed and chased in the direction Tony left. Tony was testing the new mecha when he heard Jarvis' voice. "Boss, an unidentified flying object has been detected, and it is approaching us at a very high speed. Unidentified flight object, open the video." Tony, who was in the mecha, immediately saw a blurry figure in front of him, chasing him at an extremely exaggerated speed. Is this a human? A flying Superman? Tony was a little surprised when he saw the picture. The person flying towards him at a high speed was obviously a human, and unlike him, he was not wearing a steel mecha. Tony immediately thought it was Superman. But there is no Superman in this world, only Homelander. But according to Jarvis's analysis of the image, this is not the Homelander from Vought Corporation at all. Looks a little younger. While Tony was stunned, Lun had already arrived next to the steel mecha and walked side by side with it. Lun at the moment there was a smile on her face. He did not cover his face, nor did he have time to cover it. What's more, he is not afraid of exposing his identity. When Tony saw her, he knew that he had seen Lun's eyes. A sense of familiarity immediately emerged, and my mind suddenly buzzed. Until he got a little closer to Lun, he finally confirmed that this Asian boy was definitely the one who gave him the blueprints of the steel mecha one day. Although he covered his face at that time, Tony remembered the other person's eyes clearly. It really feels like finding something without any effort after searching for it everywhere. Then, he started making various gestures to Lun to express his gratitude. But Lun didn't understand what he meant and thought the other party wanted to have a competition. He immediately nodded at the mecha and then increased its speed. When Lun first started flying, he was still a little unskilled, but now he has used the flying experience gained in the simulator. You can now fly as you wish. It is entirely possible to increase his speed now, and as long as he can get exposure to sunlight, his strength will not be exhausted. To put it simply, Kryptonian's power comes from solar power. However, this made Tony confused, as he was frightened by himself. It's normal when you think about it. After all, I was too excited just now, and the Mark III doesn't have the function of external sound. He could only express it with gestures. He couldn't be like his opponent, who was not wearing a mecha and remained unscathed in a high-speed flight at Mach 2. If he took off his mask, he would probably suffocate. Feeling anxious, I had to speed up and chase after Lun. Although Jarvis had already memorized the other person's appearance, he now wanted to thank him for his help. In this way, the speed of the two reached Mach 2.5. Lun accelerated again, reaching Mach 3. Get rid of Tony again. Originally Lun thought it could be increased, but later found out that this was his limit. Tony's Mark III mecha was also behind, following up a little dizzily. Why is this guy still not giving up? The Mark III mecha's top speed is clearly Mach 2.5, yet he dares to increase the speed. However, he couldn't continue now, so he made a stop gesture to Iron Man next to him. Now, Tony understood it, and pointed to the ground several times. The meaning is very clear, he wants to talk to Lun. Lun also understood that the other party must have guessed that he was the one who intercepted his car that day. This is good, as I can get to know Marvel's most popular superhero, so I don't have to rack my brains to think of how to change the plot about him in the future. If you know each other like this, everything will be easier. So Lun nodded and flew downwards. Tony in the mecha finally let out a breath and followed behind with a long tail flame. What they didn't know was that the United States military, the Department of Defense and other departments had all noticed the two unidentified flights. Including S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury also knew about it. This Lun is actually the same as that Walter's Homelander, and he also has the flight ability. Obviously, the black braised egg became even more excited. The stronger Lun's power is, the easier it is for his plan to succeed. Agents Phil Coulson and Maria Hill stood by. Commander, what should we do? Nick Fury stared at the images sent back by the satellite for a long time, his eyes flashed and he said, I thought I knew who the benefactor Tony Stark was talking about was, but I didn't expect it to be this. Director, you mean that the young man Tony Stark mentioned who gave him the inspiration for the Mark mecha is Lun, who destroyed 2 organizations and killed 2 super ability people from Vought Corporation? Phil Coulson also understood the director's guess and spoke with some surprise. Nick Fury nodded slightly in affirmation. Phil Coulson and Maria Hill looked at each other, both a little surprised. Then what should we do? It looks like the military might attack them. After being surprised, Phil Coulson still thought of the key to the problem. Nick Fury glanced at the other party and said, what else can we do? The military won't listen to us. But this is also good. It's a good opportunity to see how powerful Lun is. Chapter 36. Lun landed on the top of a mountain whose name was unknown, and Tony followed closely behind in a mecha. He lifted his visor and said directly, you are the young man from last time. Although Tony is usually a little arrogant, he always gives the utmost respect to those he respects. Besides the fact that the other party indirectly saved him, the fact that he could think of such advanced technology as Mark mecha was enough to prove how talented he was. Lun had no idea what the other party was thinking. If she knew, she would definitely be in tears and laughter. Hearing the other party's question, Lu just asked back, your genius mind has guessed it all, right? It's you. Tony was obviously very excited. Thank you very much for your help. Without that blueprint, I don't know what kind of dangers I would have experienced. I wouldn't have produced a scumbag in the company so quickly. You are my benefactor. I have decided to transfer all the shares of Obadiah to you. It's about 15%, with a market value of about 500 billion. I hope you won't refuse it. After dinner, I went to the library to simulate Lun, but I didn't even see the other party's press conference. After hearing what he said, Lun couldn't even believe it. However, Lun does not think of himself as Tony Stark's savior. This mecha technology originally belonged to him, he just drew a sketch to let the other party think of this technology in advance. Come to think of it, that picture is not much different from the one drawn by kindergarten kids. The structure and parts inside are completely wrong. It was just a concept drawing that I asked Peter to draw based on my memory. I just want to change the time of the mecha's appearance and get a simulation opportunity. Actually, he didn't help others at all. Instead, Tony Stark created his own simulated DC world and obtained the original Kryptonian body. Although he likes money, he understands the principle of not accepting rewards without merit. So he said, "Mr. Stark, although I appreciate your gratitude, but I didn't help you at all. That day was just a coincidence. I have many more paintings like the one you want. The birth of this mecha was your own idea. If that painting gave you inspiration, I'm very happy. We in the East have a saying that goes no reward without merit, so you should keep those shares for yourself. But thank you for remembering this. And just call me by my name is Lun. Although he also likes money, he has enough to spend now. Sky has laundered the money of both organizations. And that person has short arms. He doesn't want to have too many ties with these superheroes. Including Sky and Peter, they are just friends. We won't go any further and become girlfriends or gay friends." He knew what Sky thought of him, but he knew exactly how dangerous this world was. It doesn't show up now because it's just released and in the initial stage. Later you will find that in such a world without powerful forces, you can only struggle at the bottom and face the crisis of death at all times. Thanos alone almost destroyed the entire universe, not to mention the more dangers that will arise later. What multi-universe is opening, universes are colliding, Conqueror Kang. It's extremely dangerous just thinking about it. No one can affect his pace of becoming stronger. Tony, who has high IQ and EQ, would definitely understand what Lun means. In fact, he wanted to give Obadiah's shares to Lun out of selfish motives. He wants such talents to join his team, so that the development of this mecha technology will be unimaginable. But I really want to thank Lun. So, without giving up, he said, "But, Mr. Lun, if I didn't have your drawings, I don't know when I would have thought of this technology. Come to think of it, I still owe you a huge favor. At least let me do something." Lun still shook her head and said, "No need, if you really want to do something, that is, I may ask you for help or give you some advice in the future. You will accept it appropriately when the time comes. Definitely, I won't let you do anything evil. Okay, but I'll consider the shares as my purchase. I'll pay them according to Obadiah's previous dividend amount. It will be transferred to your account. You just need to register as a scientific advisor here." This time Tony readily agreed, but still made the request. Lun knew that even if she refused, he would find a way to use Jarvis to find her account. As for dividends, it's a lot less, about tens of millions every year. As for the scientific advisor, it is equivalent to a nominal position, basically the kind that gets paid without having to do anything. It's up to you, you don't need the money anyway. You should just call me Lun, it feels awkward to add the honorific title. Lun waved her hand casually. As long as Tony agreed to her request, it would be easier to change the plot on him. Okay. Tony had no choice but to nod. "Can I ask how many super abilities you have, and whether you can teleport?" Apparently he was thinking of that day when Happy couldn't catch up with the other person no matter how hard he tried. Just as Lun nodded in agreement, she heard a rumbling sound. Then several fighter planes flew over, and then a warning sounded from inside, "We are the United States Air Defense Force. Identify yourself or we will use coercive measures to expel you." Chapter 37. Hearing this, Tony's temper immediately flared up. "As soon as the mask is closed, I want to have a big fight." But before he could launch the ion cannon in his palm, he felt himself and his mecha become lighter. And then just disappeared on the spot. The pilots of several fighter planes were so surprised that they were speechless. Even the military personnel who were commanding from behind were stunned. "This is too decisive. We haven't even finished our lines yet, and you guys are gone? What are we going to do, Colonel?" The driver finally reacted and called the commander-in-chief at the rear. The commander-in-chief was Tony's good friend Colonel Rhodes. At the moment he was also in a dilemma. Because through the images just transmitted back, he vaguely saw the person inside the iron armor, and it seemed to be his friend Tony Stark. No way. If this is true, it can explain why I went to see the other person 2 days ago. The other party said that they wanted to develop important scientific and technological projects, but they didn't even meet me. Although Tony had done this several times before, this time seemed a little unusual. Could it be that the mecha was really developed by Tony? He even felt that the scientific research project proposed by the other party at the press conference not long ago might be this. The more he thought about it, the more he thought it was possible, so he ordered the pilot, the Air Force soldier, expand your search area. If there is no trace, withdraw. Then, he ordered the staff at the headquarters, block the news just now, delete all the videos just now, and avoid any negative impact from the comments. Yes, Colonel. Rhodes looked thoughtful. Tony, if it's really you, then you really caused me a lot of trouble. The order he just gave was actually to prevent the matter from getting out of hand. This is also a protection for friends. However, how long he can keep the secret for him depends on Tony Stark himself. It is necessary to ask this guy some questions. The other side. When Tony looked around clearly again, he discovered that he was already not far from his villa. Oh my god, you really can teleport. To be honest, this skill is so convenient. Tony's tone relaxed a lot when he saw that the threat of the missile-equipped fighter jets was no longer there. Lun looked calm. He could have easily blown up those planes with one punch. But this is too brutal, and those Air Force members have no grudge against him. It is very reasonable for the other party to take effective defense when discovering the unidentified flying object. So, I chose to fly Thor to teleport. Since Lun had never been to Tony's house, he could only be brought here. Mr. Stark, you're home now. Don't fight for your life or death at every turn. You are a genius, and your brain is valuable. Lun couldn't help but make a joke and prepared to leave. He has other things to deal with now. The Hand has been attacking him these days, and he can't always let S.H.I.E.L.D. take action. Although it is fun to use them as free labor, it is time to resolve the issue. Also try to see the limits of your original Kryptonian body. Just call me by my name, we'll be friends from now on, and your business, Lun, is my business. After just a short contact, Tony Stark, who had seen countless people, had already felt that the boy in front of him was extraordinary. At least, it felt very unfathomable to him, like an abyss. Therefore, he did not believe the other party's statement that those mecha drawings were just drawn for fun. The other party is definitely a genius, even more talented than himself. Well, okay. Lun nodded. Tony hurriedly called Lun and said, yesterday a black salted egg found me and invited me to join the Avengers program. Besides, he seems to have been looking for you. I told him that I would agree if you agree. What do you think about this matter? Hearing what Tony said, Lun was not too surprised. He knew very well that Nick Fury had sent people to organize the Hand these days. The other party also seemed to know that he could find out. Naturally, I intend to leave a good impression on my side. Although Lun is not a saint, she won't yell about protecting the Earth. But when the Earth is in crisis, he will naturally take action for the sake of his home. However, cooperation is allowed, but you must never allow yourself to be constrained by others. I'm sure S.H.I.E.L.D. should know about my contact with Tony today. He probably guessed that he was the one who inspired Tony Stark to develop mechas. However, he was not worried and he had no intention of hiding his own affairs. However, he just didn't like the black braised egg. Then he turned his eyes and said, actually, you don't have to say that. He should have told you about your father. I can only tell you that S.H.I.E.L.D. is in tatters right now. If we want to cooperate, at least not now. Also, you should be aware that palladium is not a perfect supply element. Take a look at your basement. There should be a city model there. It's something your father left for you. Inside, you will find the perfect elements you need. After saying that, Lun disappeared. Tony opened his mouth wide again. This boy was truly amazing. He actually knows more about his family than he does. Is he the prophet of their Eastern Celestial Empire? Chapter 38. Because of the plot changes, Tony Stark did not have a big hole in his heart, nor did he suffer from palladium poisoning. However, the effect of the new element is indeed far greater than that of palladium. Last century, Howard Stark actually discovered new elements that were far beyond the current era. I have to say, Tony and his father are both geniuses. The reason I told Tony these things was because I didn't want Nick Fury to tell Tony as a favor. At the same time, you can also change some plots and get simulation opportunities. Lun also discovered it and wanted to get a chance to simulate the designated world. It is necessary to change the stories happening to the main characters in this world. This way, it will be easier to obtain. Whether it was the Invisible Man that was killed before or the two major organizations that were destroyed, not as real as Tony Stark. With his God's perspective, it is so easy for him to change the development of some plots. After several flashes of flying Thor, Lun's figure came to another area of New York. Hell's Kitchen. If you ask where is safe in New York, probably no one can give the right answer, because every place is chaotic. But if someone asks which place is the most dangerous, even a 3-year-old child can shout out a name. Hell's Kitchen. That's right, Lun's target this time is the Hand. The other party has been attacking me for so long, it's time for me to make them disappear. Although it is fun to let S.H.I.E.L.D. do the hard work, we can't just watch the fun all the time. Inside a very luxuriously decorated hotel. The 5 major leaders of the Shura society gathered here. Madame Gao, who was in the lead, spoke gloomily, "Have you investigated this wave of forces? Where did they come from?" "It has indeed been investigated thoroughly, but we may be in trouble." One of the leaders gave the answer. "Trouble, what's going on?" Mrs. Gao was a little surprised. Their hand-in-hand society has been established for nearly 100 years, and although the 5 founders are wary of each other, they are still very disunited in facing external enemies together. If the other party says there is trouble, it is very likely that there is really trouble. I won't mention the full name of this organization, it's long and boring, its abbreviation is S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was immediately confused because they had never heard of this name. The leader explained again, his predecessor was a mysterious organization established by the father of the current Tony Stark. Only then did Mrs. Gao and the others realize what was going on. Just because they haven't heard of S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't mean they don't know Howard Stark. The Shahi Society has been established for so long, and because of the help of Dragon Bone, they have all lived a long time and naturally know some celebrities from the last era. They may not know what S.H.I.E.L.D. looks like, but they know the name of Howard Stark. This organization was actually founded by the other party, so it is definitely not simple. Should we withdraw our troops? Mrs. Gao sought the opinions of the other 4 leaders. The other 4 leaders were silent for a long time, and finally nodded in agreement. After all, if such an organization protects Lun, it means that the other party is very important to S.H.I.E.L.D. Although I feel a little unwilling that I cannot create the super ability serum, I still have to consider the overall situation. Boom! At this moment, a beam of blazing red light pierced through the French window without warning and directly hit the leader who had just proposed S.H.I.E.L.D. A big hole was stabbed directly in the back. Then, he fell down in disbelief. "I thought you guys were so awesome, but you're scared like this by just S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm so disappointed." Under the surprised gazes of Mrs. Gao and others, a young figure slowly fell into the conference room from outside the building. "It's Lun." At the moment his eyes still had a scarlet glow, which looked quite shocking. "You are Lun." Madame Gao spoke in a low voice with a cold look in her eyes. At this time, many well-trained ninjas poured into the conference room. They were dressed in crimson ninja uniforms and exuded a strong bloodthirsty aura. Each of these ninjas has at least a few hundred lives on their hands. Otherwise, he wouldn't have developed such a murderous aura. Lun was not flustered at all, she smiled and said, "That's right, you've worked hard these days, and now I'm here in person. Let me think, you probably want to study my super ability, so you sent people to capture me." Madame Gao and the other 3 leaders' expressions changed slightly. The purpose of being exposed by someone can only mean that their action this time was a complete failure. In addition, I didn't expect Lun to have such a super ability. He can actually fly and has heat vision. It seems that their intelligence is not complete at all. I didn't expect you to be so powerful. However, it's a bit too arrogant for you to take on the entire hand by yourself. Mrs. Gao had a gloomy look on her face, and her ruthless temperament made people feel cold. Lun also looked cold. "You'll know if it works if you try it. Kill him." At Mrs. Gao's command, many ninjas shot towards Lun like bullets. However, Lun just narrowed his eyes slightly. The ninjas fell to the ground in an instant like cut leaks. Blood kept flowing out of the mouth and nose. The domineering aura of the king directly shattered their brain nerves. Chapter 39. In the blink of an eye, all the Shurikai ninjas were shocked to death by the conqueror's haki. Mrs. Gao and the others looked at each other in disbelief. At the moment Alexandra, who had just died, woke up again. Apparently someone helped him swallow the dragon bone. Definitely, Lun was not surprised that the hand-in-hand combination would have a dragon bone. However, there was no time for them to react. Lun's eyes became increasingly red, and finally hot rays of light burst out, sweeping towards the leaders of the hand. Get out of the way. The members of the Shahi society are all veterans, and they immediately noticed the horror of Lun's hot gaze. Then, the place where they were just now was cut off by Lun's thermal vision. Let's go together. Several leaders finally realized that they had underestimated Lun's strength. Now only if we work together can we have a chance to defeat this guy. Then, Mrs. Gao, who was leaning on a cane, slapped Lun with her palm without any slowness, and the palm was filled with air. Alexandra, Bato, Wanda, and Murakami followed closely behind. They are originally a ninja organization, and except for Mrs. Gao, they basically use ninja methods. Duplication technique, substitution technique, fire escape technique, water escape technique. But in Lun's eyes, although these ninjutsu can be called wonderful, they are too crude. You should know that the first place he simulated was Konoha, although he did not improve his cultivation because of his research on cells. But that is also the strength of an elite jonin. This bit of ninjutsu is nothing but a show in front of him. Using the observation haki, he easily avoided these attacks. Then, without even covering his armament haki, he just punched at several people. But these people are not simple either. With tacit cooperation, they are able to fight back and forth against Lun. But the bigger it gets, the more frightening it becomes. Their strength is limited after all. Even if they have rich combat experience, their strength is constantly being lost. As for Madame Gao, only 1/10 of the energy left in her body was left. Lun constantly kills them. But they have dragon bones in their hands and can be resurrected constantly. Is he a monster? This is how several leaders in the hand feel. They now have very few dragon bones left. Suddenly, Murakami seized a flaw in Lun and threw several shurikens. This is the power of ninja, it can even pierce through walls. Bite. However, although the shurikens hit Lun's back, after a metal collision sound, many of the shurikens were directly bounced away. Several people's hearts skipped a beat, and an indescribable feeling of danger came over them. Then, sharp vines with thorns began to grow on the ground. What's even more terrifying is that the vines are actually covered with a layer of black, flashing with cold light. The wood release was covered with armament haki, and both Madame Gao and Alexandra had their hearts pierced under their incredulous gazes. The remaining 3 people were faster and all jumped onto the roof like geckos. But a beam of heat swept directly over. This time the 3 of them had no time to react and were cut off in the middle. This time, Lun didn't see the 5 people resurrected, and he knew that their dragon bones were gone. In response, Lun just snorted coldly and flew out of the hotel. He clasped his hands together and said, "Fire style, great fireball technique." A fireball as big as a hill directly enveloped the hand hotel. He is a professional at setting fires. At this moment, the system prompt sound came in my mind. Ding! The host wipes out the Shura society, changes the original plot, and gains a simulation opportunity. This is not a specified world simulation, so forget it for now. Then, Lun's figure disappeared instantly. Before long, the commotion here quickly attracted all the forces from Hell's Kitchen. Including Jinbing, who is known as the Underground Emperor. Fisk Building. It is one of the tallest buildings in the United States. At the moment, on the top floor, a middle-aged man with a body as big as a hill sat in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the flames rising into the sky in the distance. This person is Jinbing. Boss, we have found out that the person who did it is a high school student named Lun. He was also the one who destroyed the Tomahawk Gang and the Rising Tide organization. After his confidant Wesley came in, he reported Lun's information. Jinbing's huge figure slowly turned around, and even the specially made chair made a sound of being unable to bear the weight. There is no fat on Kingpin's body. Instead, more than 98% of it is muscle. You can imagine the power. One punch can punch through the wall. After listening to his subordinate's words, Jinbing slowly spoke, "Such a person actually appeared, but he only seems to attack those who provoke him." His voice was quite honest, and if you didn't know him, you would definitely not associate him with the gangster who killed so many people and caused 60% of the crime rate in New York. Wesley also nodded, it seems so, but his methods are a bit too cruel. There might be other crazy moves, boss, do you need to call Bullseye and the others back? Wesley's meaning was very clear, he was afraid that LUN would take action against other forces in their Hell's Kitchen. From the investigation, we learned that the opponent's super ability is very powerful, otherwise they would not have been able to destroy the hand, which even they dared not underestimate. Chapter 40. Jinbing naturally knew this. No one knows the people of the hand better than he does. In addition to its own strong power, it also possesses dragon bones that can be resurrected. He wanted to exchange some money several times, but the other party didn't give him any face at all. But he couldn't do anything about the Handhead Society. It's not that I'm afraid of the other party, but once I fight with the other party, it will be extremely difficult. The fact that he is like an indestructible cockroach is enough to give people a headache. But, today, it was destroyed. Could it be that even Long Gu couldn't save those people from the Hui? The more he thought about it, the gloomier Jinbing's face became. Although he has come across many people with super abilities, he doesn't think they are that powerful. Because some of his subordinates have super abilities. But this person named Lun is obviously different. It would be a lie to say that he is not nervous. Even if he doesn't take action against their forces, he still has to be on guard. The reason why Kingpin has been able to reach his current position is due to his superior intelligence. Many things can be thought of further. After a few seconds of silence, he nodded and said, "Let Vulture and the others come over, and send someone to secretly keep an eye on Lun." "Okay, boss." After Wesley left, Kingpin picked up the burning cigar and took a puff, then stared at the flames in the distance again. When Lun returned to her villa, she was surprised to find that it was already night. "I didn't expect it would take so long to destroy the hand. An entire afternoon had passed since I separated from Tony Stark. If it weren't for the solar radiation endurance energy, he would have been powerless to fight against these cheating players. In fact, later on, if they still had dragon bones to continue resurrecting, Lun would have no choice but to retreat. Because at night, without the sun, his energy could not sustain, and he couldn't find where their dragon bones were. The only thing we can do is to let them constantly revive, like the indestructible cockroaches." Finally, he left after making sure that the strange power did not erupt from the bodies of those people to revive them again. According to speculation, the dragon bone should be similar to some kind of ritual. Place it in a corner, and as long as the power of the dragon bone does not disappear, several leaders of the hand can be resurrected forever. Fortunately, the power of this thing is limited, and I am better than them. Lun, who had just entered the yard, suddenly narrowed his eyes. His observation haki allowed him to clearly perceive that there was someone else in the house besides Sky. But Sky didn't seem to be under any coercion, and Peter was next to him. "The black marinated eggs are finally here." Lun had already guessed who the visitor was. "After entering the villa, I saw Nick Fury and a man and a woman. The man was of strong build, with a bow and arrow on his back. This is Hawkeye, who has saved Lun a lot of trouble in recent days. His real name is Clint Barton." Even though Lun had never seen the other woman with a hot body and stunning appearance, she could guess her identity. Black Widow Natasha Romanoff. These two are currently high-level agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It seems that Mr. Lun already knows our identities. Nick Fury was not surprised when he saw that Lun was not surprised at all. He also knew that the other party had contacted Tony Stark at noon, and should have learned about their affairs from Tony Stark. "Lun, you are finally back. I don't know where these uninvited guests came from. Say you are from a long and stinky department, and then they say they want to see you." Before Lun could speak, Sky on the sofa spoke with a stern expression. "Miss Sky, our department is called S.H.I.E.L.D., not the long and stinky department." Natasha Romanoff explained with a slightly frowned brow. But Sky didn't give him any face at all. "Oh, I don't care who you are." It was obvious that Sky didn't like being disturbed by strangers. Lun did the same, saying, "I know why you came here, to be honest you are very courageous. Are you really not afraid of becoming the next hand? My methods are very cruel. Besides, I will destroy Vought Corporation sooner or later, so aren't you afraid of any impact on your shield?" Lun knew that the other party had investigated him thoroughly, and they must also know about him, Vought Company, and Homelander. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. accepts extraordinary people, it is also an official organization and there are people above to restrain it. He didn't believe that the other party would not consider these things if he easily recruited someone like him. Nick Fury still smiled and said, "You don't have to worry about this. Since we dare to invite you, we have a way to deal with this. In addition, we can even provide assistance with your matter with Vought Company. To be honest, we have long wanted to remove this cancer. They have always wanted to control the Ministry of Defense. If they succeed, our shield authority will also be challenged." Lun was slightly surprised. Unexpectedly, the enemy of Water Company had already been established. These days, Water Company has been getting more and more negative news. In order to bring down Vought Corporation, the bearded Billy Butcher even exposed the fact that Homelander forced his wife. Now Water Company is on the verge of collapse. Now it seems that S.H.I.E.L.D., the military, and even the CIA must be behind this. Chapter 41. However, he was too lazy to care about these things. He only needs to upgrade his original Kryptonian body to another level and then kill Homelander. As for S.H.I.E.L.D., he had his own plans, so he said, "I am very grateful for your secret help these days. Mr. Barton, you have worked hard too." The three people, including Hawkeye, were all stunned. They didn't expect that Lun already knew the other party's information. It seems that Lun is more mysterious than they realize. There is such an advanced information department. "It's okay, I'm just following orders." Hawkeye was silent, but he still answered. Lun could tell what they were thinking, but I wonder what their expressions would be if they knew that Lun knew everything here. Then, he spoke directly again, "Although I won't join your plan, I won't stand idly by if the Earth is in danger in the future." Nick Fury understood what Lun meant. The other party didn't want to be restrained. But they had no way to force such a transcendent, so they could only settle for the next best thing. "That's fine, then can we ask you for a favor and persuade Tony Stark? Because he is now following your will. We are not familiar with each other, so it's up to him to decide. But I think he will agree to join the Avengers program. After all, his father Howard Stark was also one of the initiators of this plan." Lun knew about the Avengers Alliance plan. It was not just Nick Fury's idea. Howard was involved in it. Even if he organized Tony Stark to join the Avengers Alliance, it would have almost no effect. He can change the direction of some plots, but what is supposed to happen will still happen. Maybe the result can change, but the process will not disappear. Moreover, his strength is not yet strong enough to change the will of the universe. If you really dare to do this, the Life Court will not just ignore it. Okay, then Mr. Lun, I hope we have the opportunity to cooperate in the future. Having said that, Nick Fury wanted to take Hawkeye and Natasha Romanoff away. But he was stopped by Lun. "Mr. Lun, anything else?" This time, Natasha Romanoff took a half step forward, ready to defend herself. Lun said with some amusement, "Don't worry, I have no reason to attack you, I just want to make a deal with you." "Deal?" Nick Fury narrowed his eyes slightly, "Tell me what you want." He now feels more and more that Lun is far more mysterious than they thought, so he is very curious about what kind of deal he is going to make. Lun glanced at Sky, then said, "I want an item from your shield that has no use to you. It will only work if used on specific things, and I will tell you a secret that S.H.I.E.L.D. has kept hidden for many years." "What secret has S.H.I.E.L.D. been hiding for years?" Nick Fury and the other two looked at each other. Lun's words involved too many things. What other secrets are there that they don't know themselves? Instantly, the three people, all of whom were agents, immediately realized the unusualness of this sentence. Nick Fury's face seemed to become darker, and he said in a deep voice, "Mr. Lun, can you tell us what kind of secret it is?" Hawkeye and Black Widow also stared at Lun with sharp eyes. Peter and Sky, who were standing next to each other, had not interrupted him, but they were aware of the sudden tense atmosphere. For a moment, the air was extremely quiet. Lun said calmly, "This secret concerns the life and death of your shield. As long as you exchange it with the obelisk in your hand, I will tell you in detail." This is exactly what Lun planned. The obelisk is used to help Sky awaken her supernatural powers. Because Sky has inhuman blood, he must use the obelisk to use the awakening vibe ability. The Inhumans are a race created by the Kree experiments, which is different from the mutants who gain super abilities through genetic mutation. If they want to awaken the super ability, they must use a substance called Turigen mist. And inside the obelisk, there are things like this. This thing is only effective against inhumans. Ordinary people will turn into stone if they touch it. In Shield Agent, Sky relies on this thing to achieve the super ability of awakening. And now that Sky is by his side, he can't protect her all the time. Therefore, the best way is for her to awaken her own super ability. Definitely, that's why Shield hid this thing from me. Obelisk. When they heard this name, everyone except Lun was a little confused. It's the thing that turns ordinary people into stone when they touch it. Even if you keep it, it will be useless and it's also very dangerous. I know the thing you are talking about, but can you tell me the secret you know first? After hearing Lun's explanation, Nick Fury also knew what the other party was talking about. Indeed, that thing really had no effect on them. But from what Lun said, that thing seemed very unusual, so he wanted to make sure whether Lun was lying to them. After all, he didn't know what Lun's personality was like. Lun completely understood his thoughts. So he said calmly, "You have people from Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. This time, Nick Fury and the other two were so surprised that they almost shouted out. Chapter 42. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Hydra's captain was eliminated last century. Hawkeye was the first to express his doubt. This matter was really hard to accept. Black Widow Natasha Romanoff also agreed, yes, Hydra disappeared in the last century. How could they arrange spies to infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.D.? Are you sure all of Hydra is gone? Lun did not argue with the two of them, but just spoke calmly. This. The two paused. After all, this happened in the last century and they were not born yet at that time. So, they were just too emotional just now. Now after hearing Lun's question, he calmed down, but still didn't believe what Lun said, and looked at Nick Fury in the middle. Nick Fury remained silent, but his silence was palpable. Commander, is it true that Hydra still exists in the world? Black Widow's beautiful face suddenly showed an expression of disbelief. Nick Fury's next words made Black Widow and Hawkeye speechless. I knew it. He had long suspected that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s plans had always been disrupted over the years. Sometimes, several elite agents would die inexplicably. I conducted several secret investigations but found no problems. As time went by, he relaxed his vigilance and thought that the agents were just not doing their job properly. Lun's words today completely cleared up his doubts. If it was Hydra, then that would make sense. It was too easy for the other party to invade S.H.I.E.L.D. without anyone noticing. He now believes Lun's words, no matter how the other party knows all this, but as long as the other party is related to Hydra, he is not worried. So, he spoke again, can you tell me the list of those people? You can even tell me part of it first. You know, this is a big deal. I have to make sure. Give me the obelisk and I'll tell you the list. Lun has said enough. With S.H.I.E.L.D.'s means, if he mentions one person, he can probably find out the truth about the rest. It will be difficult to get the obelisk by then. Hawkeye didn't say much about Black Widow this time. After all, if this news was true, its value would be far greater than a dangerous thing that could turn people into stone. This involves many, many things. They have too many secrets of S.H.I.E.L.D. After a long moment, Nick Fury nodded vigorously, okay, I'll have someone bring the obelisk over now. So, Natasha Romanoff was asked to contact S.H.I.E.L.D. During this time, Lun asked Sky to prepare the meal and ignored the three people who were almost drooling. He, Peter, and Sky had dinner together. I've been fighting those hand guys for several hours and I'm already hungry. Natasha Romanoff looked at the delicious oriental dishes, resisted the urge to swallow her saliva, and turned her gaze in another direction. This pickled fish is great, the meat is tender and the soup is delicious. Sky, you are amazing. Maybe because of his extraordinary ability, Sky's cooking skills are no worse than those of hotel chefs. Peter ate voraciously, which made the three people beside him try hard not to look over here. Especially Natasha Romanoff, her stomach growled several times. But she can't be so shameless as to ask others to treat her to a meal. Just like that, about half an hour passed in agony, and then a car stopped outside the villa. A man with thinning hair walked out with a box in his hand. It's Agent Phil Coulson. After knocking on the door and entering, he handed the box to Nick Fury. Chief, I brought the things. Nick Fury took the box and said to Lun, who had just finished his meal, Mr. Lun, do you want to check it? Okay. After Lun took the box, he opened it and saw the strange metal prism inside with Kree writing on it. He nodded slightly. Then he asked Sky to get paper and pen and start writing down all the names he knew. When Nick Fury and others saw the name Alexander Pierce, they were stunned again. This name represents so many things. You have to know that the other party is now the Secretary General of the Security Council. And he is also the previous S.H.I.E.L.D. director. This shows that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been infiltrated extremely thoroughly. It's hard to imagine how many Hydra minions the other party has planted during his tenure. Nick Fury and his companions' heartbeats quickened when they saw the names written by LUN. They simply couldn't imagine how many Hydra undercover agents there were in S.H.I.E.L.D. today. Finally, Nick Fury carefully put away the list and said to LUN very politely, "Thank you for your help, Mr. LUN. If we can really complete this cleanup, S.H.I.E.L.D. will owe you a big favor." LUN nodded slightly and watched them leave. Next, S.H.I.E.L.D. will definitely undergo earth-shaking changes. At that time, you will also have the opportunity to simulate a designated world. Chapter 43. Sky, I'm going to tell you the secret of your life now, don't be too surprised. After the S.H.I.E.L.D. guys left, LUN spoke directly to Sky. Although Peter is here too, there is no need to hide this matter from Peter. Upon hearing this, Sky's beautiful eyes widened. My life experience. You mean you found out about my life experience? That's right, but you need to find your parents and relatives by yourself. I can only tell you that you have the blood of the Inhumans. LUN didn't tell her parents because he didn't know how to tell them. Anyway, she will definitely find it in the future, so it's enough for me to help her activate her superpowers now. Inhumans, what race is this? Peter on the side couldn't help but interrupt and ask. Sky also looked at LUN with the same confusion. LUN did not hide it and said, the Inhumans are actually a race created later. The race that created the Inhumans is a race with powerful technology, the Kree. Although the Inhumans, like mutants, have super abilities, they are created. So you need something called Turigen Mist to activate the extraordinary power in your body. As LUN spoke, he took out the prism from the box. This thing called the obelisk contains this substance. There is such an advanced race with such amazing things. Peter was a little surprised and wanted to touch the obelisk. But it was stopped by LUN's other hand. If you want to turn into stone, just touch it. LUN's words scared Peter so much that he quickly withdrew his hand. Only then did he realize that LUN's hands were covered with a layer of light blue light. The cold air on LUN's palm is covered by the frozen fruit. This way, you won't come into contact with the obelisk, and you won't have to worry about turning into stone. Although he has the original Kryptonian body, who knows how powerful this thing is? So, this thing can activate the extraordinary power in my body. Sky's mood also became a little complicated. Although she didn't express it during this period of contact, she had already fallen in love with LUN in her heart. The Tomahawk Gang and the Rising Tide organization had more than 50 million, and LUN let him keep 5 million. She could already buy a house outside, but the reason she stayed here shamelessly was naturally because she wanted to be with LUN. Although the other party seemed to only treat him as an ordinary friend. Then she doesn't care. Now LUN told her that she also has the opportunity to obtain a super ability, and she is actually very happy. Through her experiences these days, she also felt that this world is actually very dangerous. With super abilities, you don't have to worry so much. And, it will not be a burden to LUN. Even able to give LUN some help. As for her own background, she actually doesn't care much about it anymore. It's like the heart is filled with other people, and those things that have no results can only be obsessions. Obsession can be abandoned. Yes, whether you need a super ability or not is up to you to decide. LUN didn't say much, just quietly waited for the other party's reply. Peter, who usually loved to talk, also became quiet and didn't say much. Super ability is a good thing, but the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. This is what his Uncle Ben told him. But since he used his super ability to save Uncle Ben, who was almost killed a few days ago, his thoughts have changed a little. It is true that super abilities can help others, but more importantly, they can also allow him to better protect his family. However, it is better for Sky to decide on his own about such matters. Sky didn't hesitate, and quickly nodded and said, I want the awakening super ability. Okay, then we need to find a wide area, because awakening is a super ability, and there is a high possibility of unexpected situations. LUN nodded, grabbed Sky and prepared to fly Thor away. At this time, Peter also hurriedly pulled LUN's other arm. I want to go see it too. This kind of scene is definitely rare. Lun nodded without shaking him off. Then, using Flying Thor, he took the two of them and disappeared from the spot. Not long after, 3 people appeared on a beach. This is where Lun first came into this world. If he hadn't had Awakening Gold Finger and simulated the ability, he would have very likely become the shortest time traveler in history. Then, Lun looked at Sky and said, "How about it, are you ready?" Although he knew that Sky would definitely be able to awaken the super ability, he didn't know if any accidents would occur. So, I'm still a little worried. Sky also knew that the success rate of this matter could not be guaranteed, but he still took a deep breath and said, "Let's get started." She must become stronger, at least to keep up with Lun and not hold him back. Chapter 44. Okay, just do as I say. Lun stretched out his hand, and huge amounts of rectangular wooden houses rose from the ground, with a lid on top. It's like a huge amounts of stadium, enclosing this beach. Tree trunks appeared on the ground. Lun blew them casually and set them on fire to form torches. It suddenly became bright, and then a wooden platform grew out of the ground. After Lun placed the obelisk in the groove formed in the middle, he said to Sky, "Just put your hand on the obelisk." Sky didn't hesitate, just nodded and put her delicate hand on it. Randomly, the Kree characters on the prism flashed a few times. Then there were 2 flashes of intense light, and the obelisk shattered into pieces, with a deep blue crystal floating out from inside. This is the Turigen mists, but now it is in a crystalline state. After seeing the crystal, Lun pulled Peter back a few steps. If something unexpected happened and the Turigen mist dispersed, he would not be afraid. But Peter's safety cannot be guaranteed. If it gets contaminated, you may turn into stone. At this moment, the blue crystal seemed to sense something familiar. It just shattered, and then a cloud of glowing blue smoke floated out. This is the Turigen mists, something that allows the Inhumans to awaken their super abilities. The reason for using wood release, 3 rooms and 1 hall technique was to prevent the fog from dispersing and turning innocent people into stone. The next second, Sky was completely covered by blue smoke. After the smoke was completely absorbed by Sky, Sky finally revealed his figure. But, at the moment it has turned into a statue. "Oh my god, Lun, Sky has turned into stone, what should we do?" This scene frightened Peter so much that he started screaming immediately. Lun covered his mouth, "Shut up, trust me, nothing will happen to him." Peter finally calmed down. As if to verify Lun's words, the stone sculpture that Sky had turned into began to change. Layers of stone began to fall off and cracks began to appear. Finally, a series of crackling sounds were heard, and Sky's figure appeared again. At the moment, his temperament has changed by huge amounts. A unique charm emanates. It's like a thorny rose blooming. Waves of shock appeared around her body. Lun removed the huge house in due time. It seems like there has never been a house this big on the beach. So, what super ability did you decide on, Sky? Peter asked right away, with a sense of curiosity that was unique to teenagers. Although Lun didn't say anything, she also cast a questioning look at the other party. Sky didn't answer and punched the sea in front of him. Then, a terrifying shock wave burst out from his fist. There was a loud roar in the air, and not far away, a large wave was instantly stirred up by the violent shock wave. Moreover, this shock wave also affected the ground, causing slight vibrations under the feet. A half-man-high reef next to it exploded with a bang. "Oh my god, is this my super ability? It feels like a dream." Sky was suddenly overjoyed and couldn't even think about it. This powerful feeling is hard to describe. What kind of power is this? It seems to be able to cause vibrations. Peter wiped the water droplets off his face and was equally happy. "Definitely, just happy for my friend." Lun nodded and said in a deliberately unexpected tone, "Your ability is actually related to shockwaves. Once it is developed, it will be unimaginable. Yeah, I won't hold you back now." Sky at the moment was 100 times more confident than before, and his eyes became brighter. Lun also nodded with a smile. The system prompt sound also rang in his mind. Ding, the host has Sky awakened shockwave in advance, so that a simulation of the designated world can be performed. Then, several world options appeared in Lun's mind. It seems that this time, changing Sky's plot is very important. After all, this is about supernatural powers. However, after seeing the simulated world, Lun decided to wait a little longer. Because it's still the same as last time, there are still worlds to choose from. In the next few days, after school every day, Lun brought Sky here, constantly developing the shockwave ability. At the beginning, Sky's arms would feel a little overwhelmed after exerting his strength for a long time, and thus become red and swollen. Later, slowly, under Lun's deliberate training, Sky's physique also made a qualitative leap. On this day, when Lun was training Sky's fighting ability, he suddenly perceived the waves coming from the ocean with his observation haki. After confirming the identity of the visitor, Lun's mouth corners couldn't help but rise. Haha, you're out of luck. Deep Sea. Chapter 45. At the moment, a man on the sea was coming towards the shore at a high speed. Under his feet were huge amounts of whales. It is this whale that makes him look like he is rushing on the waves. Lun has recognized his identity, it is another scum of water company, Shanghai. It's hard to describe how bad this guy is. Lun, let's go, he seems to be from water company. When Sky saw the man, she also recognized his identity. It was obvious that she didn't want to have any contact with these people. Peter also nodded, agreeing with Sky's thoughts. But just as they finished their words, the deep-sea creature that had come to the shore jumped off the whale's back and walked towards them. Hey, miss, are you free tonight? How about we spend the night together? You should know my identity, yes, I am one of the superheroes, Shanghai. If you want, I can take you to experience the beauty of the ocean. At the moment, Deep Sea's eyes looked at Sky unscrupulously. Sky's pretty face also turned ugly. She knew that the people in water company were dirty, but she didn't expect them to be so dirty. Lun, let's go, I feel a little sick seeing this person. Sky, who has achieved a super ability, also possesses a certain amount of courage. It doesn't matter who the other person is. Besides, she knew very well the hatred between Lun and water company. She has always been extremely annoyed with these scumbags. Upon hearing this, Shanghai's expression, which originally had a disgusting smile on his face, turned extremely ugly. Very good, just based on what you said, I will let you experience it tonight. Bang! However, before he could finish his words, he was knocked away by a huge black fist formed by wooden vines. Wood release is wrapped in high-level armament haki, and can smash even diamonds to pieces. Sure enough, the deep sea rose from the distant sea in a very embarrassed manner, with scarlet blood flowing from his forehead. Because of the injection of compound number 5, their skin is very hard. Because of this, I almost got caught in the hands of the locomotive driver at the beginning. Later, after simulating One Piece and Krypton, this level of defense was almost the same as that of a squishy player for Lun. I'll kill you. The face of the deep sea has become distorted because of its hideousness. No one knew how they controlled it, but sharks in the sea rushed towards the shore and pounced on Lun and the other two as if they were risking their lives. Oh my god, is he crazy? These are protected animals. Peter complained as he shot out the cobweb, pulled a shark and threw it back into the sea. I have to say, Spider-Man's train of thought is different. This is what I was thinking about at this time. Lun's eyes were cold, and he stretched out his hand forward, and a large amount of cold mist surged out. The sharks turned into ice sculptures. Vines appeared below the beach, throwing the sharks back into the ocean like stones. Just as Lun was about to send Shanghai away with one punch, a slender jade hand pressed down on his palm. Lun, I want to do it myself. Sky stared at the deep sea in the distance, her beautiful eyes full of murderous intent. Looking at the other person's appearance, Lun nodded slightly. It's time for Sky to experience the cruelty of reality. Shanghai was so shocked that he couldn't speak. When he saw Sky coming over, he immediately wanted to jump into the sea. He already understood that the three people in front of him were not ordinary people. The extraordinary power he possesses far exceeds his own. However, when he saw that only Sky was walking towards him, he suddenly regained his confidence. He might not be able to defeat the other two, especially the one who could create ice. But, even if this girl has a super ability, what kind of super ability can she have? I can defeat her without controlling deep sea animals. So, he raised his neck and actually walked towards Sky. Girl, do you really want to fight me? Think carefully, I won't show mercy. Having said this, the smile turned dirty again. Shameless. Sky was furious and punched the other person. A terrifying shock wave went straight towards the deep sea. There were shock waves in the air. The deep sea, which was originally grinning, was immediately horrified after feeling this terrifying shock wave. He knew he had underestimated Sky. The opponent's super ability is beyond imagination. Now, he finally knew fear. If I were given another chance, I would never provoke these three people. Boom. The only thing Deep Sea heard was this loud noise, and then his consciousness completely disappeared. Sky used all his strength because of anger. It directly shattered the entire Deep Sea. LUN, we killed someone. Peter standing by was shaking with fear and howling. What are you barking at? You know what Vought Company is like. It's not enough for these guys to die 100 times. LUN said coldly, then grabbed Sky, who also collapsed with her beautiful eyes wide open, and the three of them flew directly to Thor and left. The waves came down quickly, and the minced meat from the deep sea was swept into the sea. It's as if nothing happened. Chapter 46. Sky sat on the sofa in silence all night. LUN didn't bother her, but LUN believed that she could adapt. Really? LUN yawned as she went downstairs early in the morning and smelled the wonderful aroma of food. Wake up, I made a few more dishes for you today, Sunday, try them. After seeing LUN, Sky, who was wearing an apron, immediately smiled beautifully and spoke while putting the dishes on the table. LUN nodded, knowing that the other party was no longer seriously injured and was worthy of being the famous vibe girl in the future. His adaptability is indeed far beyond that of ordinary people. Sitting at the table, Sky considerately handed LUN the bowl and chopsticks. During the time she lived with LUN, Sky also fell in love with Oriental cuisine. Nowadays, Western meals are only regarded as supplementary meals. What's going on today? LUN asked this because she wanted to confirm whether the other party had time. If possible, you can give her some training. After the blow yesterday, Sky was close to collapse. This just shows that her physical condition is far from good enough. You must practice as soon as possible to master this power. I do have something to do. I'm going to see a biological exhibition with Gwen. Sky knew what LUN meant, she wanted to make her stronger. However, she did make an appointment with Gwen Stacy to go to the exhibition together. In fact, she didn't tell LUN that Gwen had invited LUN. Or maybe the main person he wanted to meet was LUN, and he just wanted her to pass on a message. She has gradually become familiar with Gwen these days, but that doesn't mean she isn't on guard against Gwen. After all, based on her woman's intuition, the other party definitely likes LUN. So, she planned to tell Gwen directly that LUN didn't have time, so that the two of them could go. LUN naturally didn't know about these things, so he didn't think much about it. Okay, then have fun. Since two girls are asking for the date, it wouldn't be nice for a grown man like me to get involved. After helping Sky awaken her super ability, the number of worlds she can specify for simulation has increased. It's about time to choose a world simulation. Yeah, got it. Perhaps because she felt guilty, LUN did not continue to ask questions. Instead, she felt relieved. After dinner, Sky simply changed his clothes and went out. Now she is no longer afraid of being targeted by anyone. The Tomahawk Gang, the Rising Tide organization, and even the Hand were wiped out by LUN. Besides, she has awakened her super ability, so what is there to be afraid of? Then I'll go first. When I come back I'll make Buddha jumps over the wall for you. Sky waved and headed out. LUN returned to the sofa and wanted to check out which worlds he could simulate. At this moment, LUN's phone suddenly rang. This surprised him a little. Only Peter and Sky know my phone number. In other words, there were only two of them calling. It couldn't be her since Sky just left the house, so it could only be Peter. Shouldn't he go to Dr. Connors's institute to help out on Sunday? What phone call to yourself? Really? At this moment, a Marvel character suddenly flashed through LUN's mind. So, the call was connected. Sure enough, the voice coming from the other side was Peter Parker's. Hey, LUN, something happened here. Dr. Connors used the serum to do experiments regardless of the danger, and the result was... and turned into a giant lizard. Before Peter finished speaking, LUN added from behind. Yes, 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 how did you know? Oh, to be more precise, he became a half-human, half-lizard monster. Can you come over now and help me subdue him? Even with my current strength of about 10 tons, I can't hold him down. He is too terrifying. You can hear the whistling sound of the wind in the air as Peter is talking on the phone. From time to time, sounds of buildings falling off, breaks, screams, etc. could be heard from inside. It's easy to guess that Peter is following the lizard man. Where are you now? Although Lun doesn't like to meddle in other people's affairs, catching the lizard man can change some of the plot, and there are many more worlds that can be designated for simulation. I have followed him out of Queens and it seems like he is heading towards Hell's Kitchen. Peter was looking at the direction the lizard man was about to go and said uncertainly. I see. Lun covered her mouth and nose to prevent others from taking secret photos of her. He doesn't want to be found out and have the media come to his door. In an instant, Lun's figure disappeared from the spot. After the constant flashing, it appeared next to Peter. Looking at the masked man floating next to him, Peter knew at a glance that it was his good friend Lun. Peter, your spider ability is clearly not developed enough. Lun directly grabbed the other person's body and flew in the air, following the lizard man. I know, but Lun, you shouldn't say this at this time. After Peter was caught in Lun's hand, he did not struggle. He had already experienced it. This will leave a lot of cobweb liquid. Don't worry, I think we'll be able to watch a good show later. Lun looked at the lizardman running on the wall of the building in front of him, with a smile on his face, and said. Chapter 47. Hell's Kitchen. Jinbing sat behind the boss's desk, his mountain-like figure giving people a very oppressive feeling. Wesley, his confidant standing next to him, looked particularly small in front of him. Mr. Kingpin, you must help me. It was you who made Osborne Industries divest Kurt Connors. Now that guy wants to kill me, I have no way out. A middle-aged man with several red patterns on his hair was pleading with Jinbing with a fearful and anxious look on his face. That man is Norman Osborn, chairman of Osborne Industries. But few people know that Osborne Industries was acquired by Kingpin, the Underworld Emperor, several years ago. The boss of Osborne Industries has also been replaced by the Kingpin, Wilson Fisk. This person doesn't have any super abilities, but has the same combat power as the Punisher, which is the limit of human ability. After hearing Norman Osborn's request, Kingpin's eyes turned cold and he said, Why? Osborn, are you complaining to me? I just asked you to withdraw your investment, not to offend such a lunatic who dared to turn himself into a monster. In the final analysis, it is your own way of handling things that is problematic. You got yourself into trouble and you have to find a way to deal with it yourself. Do you think I have nothing to do? No, I don't have the guts to complain to you, Mr. Kingpin. I know it's the way I do things. I didn't handle this matter well, and this guy hates me, but Mr. Jinbing, you can't just stand by and watch him die. At least I can still run Osborne Industries for you. I beg you, the few people you recruit can definitely easily deal with this monster. Although Osborne was very successful outside, the contrast is huge now. He doesn't look like a famous company CEO in the United States at all. A long time passed, and every time Kingpin tapped the table, it seemed like a century in Osborne's eyes. Finally, Jinbing snorted coldly and said, If I hadn't been about to have an important deal with the Russian mafia, and I wasn't afraid that you would interrupt it, there's no way I'm going to take care of your shit, Wesley. Go get the scorpion out. He alone is enough to deal with this monster. Yes, boss. Wesley next to him responded and went out to inform them. Thank you. Osborne finally breathed a sigh of relief and bowed hurriedly to express his gratitude. Okay, I'm about to make a deal with the Russian mafia, so you go back first. Jinbing spoke calmly. Okay, I'll leave now. Osborne also left the room quickly. After a while, Wesley returned and said, Boss, we have already arranged for the scorpion to deal with the lizard. Do we really not need to send another person? No need. The monster scorpion can be dealt with by himself. You know, Scorpion has not only been injected with strengthening serum, but the power of his equipment is unimaginable. Obviously, Kingpin was quite confident in his men and felt that the lizardman could not defeat the Scorpion. It's no wonder. The effort he put into these subordinates is enough to buy several Osborne Industries. Just the terrifying black tech Scorpion battlesuit is terrifying enough. Not to mention he had been injected with homemade strengthening potions. That's right, Jinbing had already started research on human strengthening drugs. But he never used it and gave it all to his subordinates. If he really is no match for him, let Bullseye take action. Jin Bing was confident in the fighting ability of his men, but he was also very cautious, and gave another order. Yes, boss. The Russian gangsters seem to be arriving. Wesley nodded and said again. Jin Bing still looked calm and nodded. Just go, I hope what they bring this time is as magical as they say. At the moment, outside Hell's Kitchen, a shocking battle has begun. The 3-meter-tall lizard man was intercepted by an equally tall figure when he was a kilometer away from Fisk Building. The figure was wearing metal equipment and had a long metal tail with a sharp curved hook behind him. This person is Jin Bing's subordinate, Scorpion, also known as the Poison Scorpion. His physical fitness is extremely strong due to the injection of drugs, and combined with this set of equipment, he can deal with the lizardman with ease. I saw that his metal tail was like a long whip and could be extended and retracted freely. In addition, large caliber bullets and small missiles burst out from various parts of the body from time to time. Let the lizardman with super strong healing ability be covered with wounds. The street was filled with smoke and rubble, and many people were affected. Fortunately, Little Spider-Man and Lun rescued the pedestrians on the road. Lun. Should we take action? If they keep fighting, the whole building will collapse. Peter, standing on the roof, was a little anxious. Lun was still watching the battle below with great interest, and said calmly, it will be over soon, and then we can let the lizardman teach Kingpin a lesson. Is it really okay? The lizardman's eyes had gradually turned red. However, the other party seemed to have only one idea left, which was to go to that building. Chapter 48. The stress of losing his arm over the years has already distorted his mentality. A few days ago, Osborn suddenly withdrew its funding, causing his scientific research, which was just one step away from success, to fail. Definitely, his biological serum is bound to fail. It cannot be compared with the menopausal virus. Roar! The lizardman let out a roar, and used all his strength to tear off the scorpion's tail, then pounced on the opponent. The scorpion didn't expect that the opponent could tear off its tail. You know, this tail is made of adamantium and various precious metals, so it can extend and retract freely. Enough to withstand hundreds of tons of pulling force. These were all pulled apart by the opponent, which means that the opponent's strength has surpassed by done. It's just a mutant monster, but it's so powerful. The scorpion thought so in his mind and quickly dodged. With a loud bang, the ground where the poisonous scorpion had just been was smashed by the lizard man into a big hole. At the moment, many policemen had arrived not far from the street. They hid behind the police cars and aimed their guns. Stop, or we'll shoot. One of the police officers shouted directly into the loudspeaker, trying to get the two monsters to stop. However, the battle on the field had reached a white-hot stage, and it was impossible to listen to him. Chief Stacy, should we start shooting? If they keep going like this, the building next to us might be knocked down by them. One of the police officers asked the middle-aged male police officer who had just shouted. The middle-aged police officer is named George Stacy. If Lun were here, she would definitely recognize him as Gwen Stacy's father. George Stacy was silent for a few seconds and said, wait a moment, there are some famous people in Hell's Kitchen, such as Daredevil and Punisher. I believe they will take action. He hated these masked vigilantes, but when facing these extraordinary beings in battle, he had no choice but to let them take action. This kind of thinking is very abnormal, but also very normal. Boom! Without its tail, the poisonous scorpion's fighting power was reduced by half and it had already been given the upper hand by the opponent. With a loud noise, the entire scorpion was sunk into the wall. Oh my god! Lun, if we don't take action, that scorpion monster is going to die. Peter looked at the scene below, feeling a little anxious. Turning to look at Lun, I found that not only did he not care about the situation over there, but he was sitting leisurely on the roof cracking melon seeds. Hey, Lun, you're going too far. Didn't you come here to help me? Why are you watching the fun? Peter couldn't believe it. Lun was unmoved, took off the melon seed shell and said, what does it have to do with me? The lizardmen were originally after Kingpin and his men, and now they are fighting each other. What do you have to worry about? But Dr. Connors is a very nice person and helped me a lot. He must have made the wrong choice this time because he was hot-headed. Lun, let's help him. We can't let him commit murder. Peter looked at Lun pleadingly. Lun didn't want to get involved in this matter, but Peter was one of her few friends. Helping him can also make him owe you a favor. Moreover, changing the fate of the lizardmen can also change some of the plot. We can add several more simulated worlds. If the lizard people could control their own transformation like in the anime, it would more or less broaden their brain areas. Later, developing many high-tech weapons and equipment is also a good choice. This is killing 3 birds with 1 stone. So, Lun put away the melon seeds and jumped off the building. With a bang, a deep pit appeared with Lun falling as the center. At the moment the lizardman was about to pounce over there, intending to finish off the scorpion. Lun appears right in the middle of the two. At the moment the lizardmen no longer have any human consciousness. So he roared and attacked Lun. Lun didn't hesitate at all and threw a punch without even covering the armament color domineering. The lizardmen were like cannonballs, being blown hundreds of meters away. At this time, the poisonous scorpion in the distance also came out from the waste rock. After seeing Lun, he thought she was also an enemy, so he fired bullets from his battlesuit towards Lun. Lun didn't even need the armament haki, and he appeared in front of the opponent in a flash. Just like the lizard man, he was knocked away with 1 punch. Just when Lun was about to check to see if he had knocked the 2 guys out completely, 2 different figures suddenly appeared in the field. A man wearing a crimson battlesuit and a horned mask. The other one showed half of his shoulder and carried a huge amount of Gatling gun on his back. Of these 2 people, the one in red uniform is Daredevil. Lun also guessed the identity of the burly man. Punisher. This is Marvel's strongest ordinary person. I didn't expect that he already knew Daredevil. I don't know if Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones will appear. In this way, the street version of Avengers, the Defenders, was formed. It looks like there isn't one yet. Stop, you've knocked them out. Daredevil didn't say anything, but the Punisher spoke in a cold tone. This made Lun raise his eyebrows. Chapter 49. Looking at the 2 men in front of him, who were dressed differently but both were strong and wearing masks, Lun just smiled. What are you laughing at? Seeing the other person's look, Frank immediately spoke with a frown. But before he could finish his words, a huge fist hit him. At that speed, he had no time to react. Even though his reaction speed had reached the human limit, he could only watch the fist slowly grow bigger. Including Daredevil Matt Murdock standing next to him, no one expected that Lun would actually take action directly this time. Bang! The huge amounts of noise made Frank subconsciously cover his head to protect himself. However, the next second he heard another scream and realized that he was actually intact. When I turned around, I found that the poisonous scorpion had been beaten into the ruins again. And Lun's fist stayed beside his head. Now, Frank finally realized that Lun did not attack him, but saved his life. I didn't even notice the poisonous scorpion approaching just now. Frank, are you okay? Daredevil asked worriedly. Seeing that Lun had withdrawn his arm, Frank secretly breathed a sigh of relief and shook his head. I'm fine. Then he looked at Lun again. Although he didn't want to speak, he still lowered his head and said, thank you. Lun shook her head. I didn't mean to help you. I just didn't like that guy. In the distance, the poisonous scorpion had crawled out from the ruins again. However, at the moment his equipment was completely destroyed. Lun saw the other party's actions and said to the police officer in the distance, Officer, if you don't catch him, he will run away. What Lun is talking about is Mac Gargan, who no longer has the scorpion battlesuit. When many police officers heard Lun's words, they finally reacted, and George Stacy quickly waved his hand. Catch him. After saying that, he looked at Lun deeply. But at the moment Lun was wearing a mask and only a pair of eyes could be seen. Many police officers rushed forward to grab the bruised and battered Mike Gargan. Then, he wanted to catch another lizard man. However, the police officers soon discovered that the lizard man had disappeared long ago. It looks like it slipped away through the sewer. George Stacy looked at the open manhole cover and spoke seriously. Then he ordered, ask the higher UPS to send out the special police team. Yes. Here, after Lun dealt with the poisonous scorpion, he wanted to catch up with the lizard man. He wanted to see who was stronger, the muscular monster Kingpin, or a real monster like this. But, Frank stopped him. Mr. Punisher, even if you are not grateful that I just saved your life, you can't repay kindness with hatred. Lun looked at Frank calmly, but her aura became more and more oppressive. Frank and Daredevil beside him both felt it. While they were shocked, Frank gritted his teeth and said, I am very grateful that you saved me. I will try my best to repay you in the future. But one thing is for sure, my friend Matt was humiliated by you, I must ask you for an explanation. Now Lun finally understood. It turned out that Frank came here because of the last time he let Night Demon walk the chicken in broad daylight. When Daredevil heard what Frank said, his face behind the mask immediately turned dark. Frank, this matter has nothing to do with you, don't get involved. How can that be? This guy has caused you so much humiliation. You must teach him a lesson. Frank was justified in wanting to vent his friend's anger. Daredevil was a little helpless. Although he didn't want to admit it, he still had to say, you can't beat him. How could that be? Frank said proudly, he just has some super abilities. I don't believe it. Are you guys done talking? Decide if you want to fight or not. Then both of you can come together. Lun scratched his ears impatiently and spoke. You are really too arrogant. Frank's temper flared up immediately. He didn't care whether there were onlookers or armed police officers nearby. Attack Lun with a punch. Lun didn't use any super abilities, he just punched forward. Under everyone's surprised gaze, he flew backwards with a bang, just like the lizard man before. Lun. Stop hitting me. I'll apologize to you on behalf of my friend. Seeing Lun trying to rush forward and punch Frank a few more times, although I won't beat him to death, I'll let him know why the flowers are so red. But Daredevil rushed over to stop him, for he was afraid that Lun would really beat Frank, the stubborn A, to death. He knew that guy's character. He was not afraid of death at all. You're going to stop me again. Lun looked at Daredevil calmly. This made the other party feel a chill. Lun's momentum was too terrifying. It's like facing a roaring beast. Lun, let's not delay, the doctor is in the building. At this time, Peter came to Lun swinging the cobweb and said anxiously. Lun's observation Haki also perceived it, because this place is less than 100 meters away from Fisk building. It was also discovered that the things Kingpin was trading with the Russian mafia were a little unusual. So, he nodded and said to Daredevil, tell the Punisher that his fighting style has too many loopholes. If you want to fight me, at least solve these problems first. After saying that, he headed towards the top floor of Fisk building. Chapter 50. Inside the Fisk building, Kingpin sat in his boss chair. The two men in front, whose appearance was obviously different from the United States, were slowly opening a large iron box. Under Jinbing's expectant gaze, a stone tablet engraved with unique runes emerged from inside. Boss Jinbing, I think you should be very interested in this kind of thing. The man wearing sunglasses spoke with a smile on his face. These two people are from another force in Hell's Kitchen, the Russian Mafia. What they brought was exactly what was to be traded. Can you please explain in detail the effect of this stone? Kingpin wore a white suit with a purple shirt underneath, which perfectly concealed his exaggerated muscles. At the moment he was crossing his hands on the table and spoke calmly. The man in sunglasses nodded and introduced, this stone tablet is called the Monument of Time. It was discovered by an explorer in the northern pyramids. According to research, this stone tablet has the meaning of eternal life. Why would you trade such a good thing? Jin didn't completely believe what this person said, but he had heard such a legend before. Therefore, this time monument has the potential to become a reality. After hearing what Jinbing said, the man in sunglasses smiled and shook his head, saying, Boss Jinbing, I think you misunderstood. We didn't intend to trade this steel, but the steel contains too many secrets. So, we want to cooperate with you to study the stone tablet together. As you know, my brother is not young anymore. He is eager to unlock the secret of this stone tablet. As soon as these words were spoken, Jinbing and his secretary Wesley frowned. They understood what the Russian gang meant, because the stone tablet was too mysterious. So the Russian mafia wanted to use the scientific power available to the two companies to study the stone tablet. Then, they shared the benefits of the secret. The price is that Jinbing must pay a certain fee. After all, such a magical thing cannot be handed over to others casually. So, Mr. Jinbing, I don't think I need to tell you that this thing is priceless. It's impossible to trade it. The man in sunglasses added one more sentence, his expression showing that he had the upper hand. Jinbing glanced at the other party, and then suddenly smiled brightly and said, I understand. Although I am willing to pay any price to obtain this monument of time, but I can't refuse such a magical thing that contains the secret of eternal life. This is the price we agreed on before, you can order it. However, Jin nodded calmly in agreement to cooperate, but in his heart he was already thinking about how to destroy the Russian mafia. Because, there is no reason for Jin Bing to give back something he likes. Although the Russian mafia is also a force that cannot be underestimated in Hell's Kitchen, if faced with the temptation of eternal life, he is willing to move this force that has existed for a long time and is willing to pay a certain price. Anyway, the hand has been destroyed now, and there is no force that can compete with them. Even if they were severely damaged by destroying the Russian mafia, other forces would not dare to provoke them. Thinking of this, Wesley had already opened several large boxes on the ground, which were filled with neatly arranged rice knives. The total value of these boxes is over 100 million, which is really nothing compared to the value of the Monument of Time. In that case, we will send our scientific researchers over here. I will give you all the information they have researched without reservation, and I hope we can have a pleasant cooperation. The man in sunglasses waved his hand, and the big man behind him took the boxes away effortlessly. He then closed the box of the Monument of Time again and pushed it towards Kingpin. Just when Jin Bing was about to have someone take the steel to the research institute, the floor-to-ceiling windows of the skyscraper suddenly shattered. Then, a figure as big as a mountain jumped in. The figure had green skin, its head had turned into a lizard, and there was a long tail behind it. The white coat was a little torn and had a lot of blood on it. It's the lizard man. What kind of monster is this? Boss Jin Bing, do you want to break the contract? When the man in sunglasses saw the lizard man, his scalp went numb and his body stepped back. Kingpin was also shocked. The first time he saw the lizard man, he knew that Scorpion had failed. Norman Osborn, I will not forgive you. He knew that the lizardmen were recruited by Norman Osborn who had just left. He immediately cursed loudly. Boss, please leave now. Wesley hurriedly stood in front of Kingpin, trying to buy time for him. However, the lizard man ignored him and slapped him into the wall, leaving him dead or alive. Seeing this scene, the Russian gangsters became even more frightened and hurriedly ran out the door. Before running away, the man in sunglasses did not forget to take away the Monument of Time. At this time, the bodyguards in the building also heard the noise and ran in with high-tech guns. Then they lined up and fired ion beams at the lizardmen. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.